Today on Mob Rules,
we talk about Sigmarines.
Well,
Primaris Sigmarines?
Yeah,
Primaris Marines, yeah.
Primaris Marines. We also could delve into the last quarter of The Beast Arises.
And we kind of wrap up the whole thing as well and talk about all of it sequentially.
I'm just glad that I no longer have to yell spoiler alert every time I talk to these two.
And spoiler alert, we do accidentally spoil a bunch of stuff.
We spoil
in the intro.
a lot.
So yeah.
All that and a lot on the same subject.
It's 2.5 hours of
Mob Rules.
I'm adjusting background levels to make it
okay.
easier for you.
Yeah, thanks. How does that work again?
Welcome to Mob Rules episode 50. Trying to recreate the beauty of episode 1 and episode 50 through
Beauty of the Beast.
fucking with audio levels. Moving my head around and, all kinds of fun stuff.
Do we have compressors on here?
Are we gonna have
that
to
helped
lose
a little
this?
bit on that.
Yeah, well...
If we want to recreate episode 1, we're gonna have to lose this, right?
yeah, it's going to delete it afterwards. Yeah,
We're just gonna press delete. We're not actually recording right now.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
and
turn
then we'll
that off.
redo it, but it'll never be quite as good as the conversation we had. I, of course, am John, joined as always by...
Hey, John. It's Ted.
Hi, Ted, and
Phil.
Phil.
That's
Fantastic.
right. The Phil.
Why do you get a prefix? Like you're
Because
the rock
I
or
started it.
something
because
like
I
that?
said it.
Oh, yeah.
And once I say it, it's canon. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So...
It was actually from the Overlords. I think there was the Steve, and so I started using the Ted, and then now you're using the Phil. So it's like an STD, like a podcast STD.
Yeah, it just keeps spreading.
Yeah.
That and radio voice.
I really wish we spread as quickly as STDs.
It's
true.
But 50 episodes and we're doing good.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Ted?
We still survived.
Yeah.
We have survived.
There's people hearing
through
us.
ups and downs, and
I assume there's someone
our
listening to
numbers
this.
are growing and shrinking and growing more. It's good.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
cold outside. There's some shrinkage.
Yeah.
That's all we got to say.
The in betweens.
Yeah.
Okay, don't touch me. It's
Welcome to
ticklish.
content
Yeah.
production.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was really excited to hear yesterday on was it the GW Twitch? You had a shout out, Phil.
Oh,
Yeah, that was really cool.
It was the other ones. Wait,
Did you
yesterday's
shut
one?
Did you
No,
shut
no,
yourself
that was
up?
a few days ago. Or you told me about it
Oh,
last
yes,
week.
yes.
What right in the middle of GW's like Twitch feed? Somebody you said something. And,
Oh, yeah,
and then,
yeah.
Like was
And they
like
gave it a
I wrote
shout-out.
their name down. Lexica UK
Oh, yes,
was
that's
like,
right.
oh my god, it's a Glacial Geek.
That's
Like,
right,
oh,
yeah.
man, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I remember. I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. Did I get?
But then, I mean, that
Yeah.
was good. That was
That's
exciting
cool.
to me because
Yeah.
I think it's been a while since I think like about a year or so ago. I think for a while there, John, you were looking at like doing Google searches for our name and found some people.
I was
on
super
forums.
vain about it, and then I just stopped giving
Well,
a shit.
yeah, it was a new
searched-
endeavor. But I think that then we had was it Christopher Warden on Twitter did us a shout out, and I think
Yep.
Rubio Sims was.
Kind enough to give us a retweet. Checks in the mail.
That's awesome. So it's
Very
kind of cool.
small
Like
check.
it's still like it feels good. I guess like when people do that still.
Yeah.
You know,
Seriously.
it's humbling.
Yeah.
It's witness me time.
Yeah.
A little bit of
It's
Mad
kind of cool
Max in there.
when you get
okay.
recognized.
So I just want to throw a little shout out to those guys. Thanks a lot
Yeah.
for being champions of
And
the podcast
and remembering who we are.
and thinking this is entertainment.
Yeah.
and just so you know, Lexica UK, I did write your name in Sharpie on my
It's
body. so
literally
it's-
on his hand right
Literally, and it's been
For a
like
second, I forgot. I didn't know
I
what was
haven't
going on. I was like, what did he write on his hand?
Yeah.
What's it over there? And then he starts looking at it. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here.
I haven't written on my body in a long time. So.
and it's literally like been a week since that shout out. So
Yeah.
your hygiene routine is
He wrote it the second he heard it.
Before we go forward, I want to give a couple of shout outs to kind of I went Twitter investigating this past couple of weeks and unearthed a couple of things thanks to a couple of people as well. But the fantastic people who run the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook community site
Oh, okay.
and do those wonderful replies to trolly,
Oh yeah, you've been having a blast with that.
trolly salt people. Thanks to Pete Foley, the head designer, he gave us the Twitter handles of the two guys who run that wonderful reply center. So follow at Nick Baton and at Ed E. Those are the two guys, and like I said, some of their replies, like I used to just shun away from internet comment sections because it's just like, well, I mean, today when we had like the Primaris Sigmarines, or sorry, the Primaris Space Marines coming out.
Well, the fact that it's now Sigmarines.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're just trying to invalidate Space Marines. How come like you get shut?" And it's just shut down instantly, and it's fantastic.
Well, yeah. Well, it's interesting because you look at the new stat line for the Primaris Marines, and I think we were kind of discussing it earlier. They're not broken. You know, it's a Space Marine with like 1 extra wound and an attack value and a slightly better gun.
It's literally
it's not game breaking.
It's literally what you would get if you had a Space Marine who was just that little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And they gave him the stats for what that was, and it's pretty awesome.
You pit him up against a Custode, and a Custode's still going to mop the floor.
I see what you did there. I like that. Get it.
I'm super excited. Super excited to see true scale Primaris Marines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because the other ones are out of scale.
So what sold you on it? Because I know at one point you didn't like the idea of true scale.
I still hate it. That's sarcastic. There's no way. It should, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, just because to me there is no true scale. But
okay.
If the suspension of your disbelief, if the breaking point is this guy's legs are too long compared to his torso, get the fuck out of the hall. I mean, I'm sorry. Don't quite go that far. But yeah, like
gone down a dark path. But like, I mean, somebody who likes true scale and wants to model it, I mean, couldn't that just be like their aesthetic interest?
Oh yeah,
okay?
for sure. No, it looks great, but it's the preachy true scalers.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen those, but I don't also know internet as much as you do.
Yeah,
so.
it's the ones who complain about the scale of the game, like how they would never all be able to fit inside this tank.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, cool. It's 38,000 years in the future. Yeah. Maybe there's like a gravity well.
I often think about that. Like what would the game board look like if rhinos were to scale? Like if you could actually stick 10 Space Marines inside there, like
comfortably.
It'd be slightly bigger than a Land Raider, more than likely. And but then like the battlefield would be like chuck full of like really big vehicles, which I mean that would be interesting and more realistic. Of course, like the buildings too. Like a lot of the buildings look more like telephone booths that have been destroyed. Like so a real scale like building.
I mean,
it would be interesting to see like what somebody did if they did try to do true scale
I guess.
for everything.
I mean, following kind of what I try and do. Just I don't dictate what people do hobby wise.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not a fan of something doesn't mean it's dumb. I've seen some really nice looking stuff. I wouldn't do it personally, but
I think Wyron, one of our local guys,
he does beautiful stuff. But it's like
putting it next to like a Cadian. Like I think that's kind of what sold it for me. Like he did a series just recently, and I was kind of helping him with those. But yeah, I put like a regular Marine next to him, and like, damn, okay, that's that in my mind. Like that's how it should look. Because I think like my mind's eye for the longest time until like going through and like reading these books has been a Space Marine. Even though in my it's technically 8 foot tall, like in my mind's eye it's 6'7" or something like that. The scale isn't realistic. But then to see it like when he did that, it was like it really kind of clicked. Like that's exactly it.
The modeler in me says it looks amazing.
Yeah.
The gamer in me says for a 13-point model, you're spending $27 on parts and things like that. You know what I mean? So like, it looks amazing, but I'm jealous if you can have a full army of them.
Oh yeah, well now you can for a pretty penny.
The true new scale. So no, I mean, like things I've read today, people saying that Games Workshop this is their way of getting rid of old plastic Space Marine kits by slowly phasing in these ones and other kind of stuff like that. Honestly, I wasn't sold on them before. Like I was like, oh, new Marines, oh whatever, let's do but like reading the backstory of it when like Guilliman and Cowell are like, we've been planning this for 10,000 years, we're just kind of launching it now. Hey, restock your legions. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty rad. And like, especially reading that some legions, wrong game.
Chapters.
Some chapters aren't okay with being restocked.
That was in my mind too. Like
I'm really So I mean, I'm sitting there all day, and I'm like, man, this is freaking Star Wars. We're gonna when's Guilliman gonna be execute Order 66? Let's all of the new Marines just in there. But like I said, it's not diminished any hype, and I think more so because now that they've explained the background and why they're there, and not just Guilliman wanted new Marines, so he made them.
And I think anytime you get like a new unit, I just think it's kind of cool that you have another option that you can throw out there in your list, and you can. They said that you can run them. There's going to be like a chapter of just them that they're going to be having doing, but at the same time,
how quickly they die.
Yeah, seriously, they need some backup. Let's see if that extra wound can keep them from dying out every battle.
Just die twice as hard.
But I think it's kind of cool just to have like a new unit, a different options that you can throw something out there, and you're like, well, maybe I need distraction marine, and this is great because it's like an extra wound on these guys. They've got
Bring
a little
in the
bit
Rainbow
extra
Warriors.
Yeah,
We need the
exactly.
distraction
And you
marines.
throw in there your little bigger space marines. You're probably going to get. They're probably going to absorb a whole bunch of shots going in there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, there's 2 other tactical marine squads that I've got over here have now taken the objective. Ha ha.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of cool that there's like different ways of playing.
I think that I think Pete was even saying, or I assume it was Pete in the one of the Warhammer community site was saying how you're still going to want to bring like all your space marines. I think it was in the FAQ. It was like there's still like if you want tactical advantage, you need all your boys. So,
and they were saying there's like those guys only have access to bolters. You know what I mean? And that's like you don't have quite the versatility that you have with the regular guys.
And also, if I bring an orc list, I'm still going to bring boys. I'm not just going to solely bring knobs because they're better. It's different battlefield rules.
That's true.
So
I think that was what one person was saying. Like, oh yeah, when are orcs going to get their super?
I can't wait. I'm excited. Yeah,
it'd be curious. Like, what can you do? Like, orcs are so neat because they think they have that growth characteristic. So space marines are now getting it. They have the different sizes, but now I guess we just get a larger war boss and everything scales. And now the old war boss is the new knob, super knob. I don't know,
second edition all over again. The other thing I wanted to mention on Twitter is Ray Dranfield, who's at Ray Dranfield. He was one of the 2 designers of all of the recent kind of Sector Mechanicus terrain. And if you look at his Twitter, he has a whole ton of different hints and advice and tips of how that kit goes together, how you can make it modular.
And interchangeable stuff.
Cool. Super neat information there.
And it seems like he's pretty new to Twitter too. I think his handle was fairly in the last few weeks or month or something like that.
I think
he might actually start following you if you follow him.
Oh, he follows me, so there's a chance, and I just do crappy memes.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool because I think that's part of like their new push to be present on the interwebs out there and be present on the social media where they want that ability for.
So it's required that every time you go to the bathroom you tweet something.
Yes, just like mob rules.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually an app called was it Places I Pooped?
Yeah, I was going to say shitter, but
there's
hey, I like that. That's good.
That's pretty good and accurate as well. Ted, what have you been up to?
I've been reading books. That's about it. I think before the podcast, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we're done with this series." And it's not because I don't like the series, but I'm just like, "Oh wow, I could paint again. This is gonna be great." Although I have been putting other stuff together.
I was gonna say, as you've instantly lined up like 2 more books that you want,
you want to read. Thankfully, it's just 2 and not 12. It took us like a year.
We're only 6 months late.
Oh, okay. But I got some of the was it the Grot tanks?
Yes.
I wish I'd brought those. I'd seen them in person, like across the table once. Like I think they were at a painting competition down at LVO. Actually, I think it was the first time I'd seen them in person. And as like an orc player, I'm like, I don't know, I shouldn't really be buying orc stuff because like any orc player who's worth their salt can make those in like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so
you have books to read, man. You don't have time for conversion.
But I got them anyway. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do this. And I think they're pretty cool. Like there's some versatility, so you can swap the kits out and make them into different things. I wish they had like more gun. I mean, they have all the gun options, but only one of each one. Mm-hmm. So,
so you're forced to have a different
one of
guns
each,
on
right?
So there's 5 guns and there's 5 possible loadouts because I think one tank, there's 4 tanks. One of them has 2 gun options.
Is it kind of like the Kilocan kit where you get like 3 Kilocans in one box, but you can't give them all the same weapon just because of how it's laid out?
Yeah, so it's kind of obnoxious. But then once again, an orc player should be able to make whatever. So just like get your evergreen stuff out and start making some plastic weapons.
Buy yourself some like plastic tubing.
Yeah.
Got yourself a cannon.
Lots of big shooters. So I got that. And then, I think you and I both got the Gravonic servo hauler.
I love that kit.
It
was amazing. You've seen that kit.
I have seen it. I haven't seen it in person.
I have it here somewhere.
Oh,
nice. Pull it out.
Let's turn his volume back down.
I don't get to be part of this conversation.
Shadow War terrain elitists.
And this was another one of Ray Dranfield's kits that he worked on. So it comes with like a trailer that you can put like a crane on. Honestly, I bought the kit because of the crane. I thought I'm a sucker for rad scatter terrain.
Dude, would that be a Orca wrecking ball? Like
wrecking
ball of all wrecking balls right there. Like, throw it in your Gargant.
What I found out, through this Ray John Fails Twitter is if you don't glue the back of the crane on, then that back wheel portion can be used to hold the containers from the kit that came out at the start of the year as well. So, I mean, it's all this interchangeable stuff. And I'm like, man, I got to go buy Promethean pipes now. So all this crap lines up. It's,
And so I think, like, I think they showcased that as well in the White Dork. But I think, like, they were talking about, like, how you can put the containers on there. So I think at the same time, like, I ran down the shop, like, as soon as, like, I heard that was going to... Actually, it was because of you. You're like, hey, look what I pre-ordered. Like, what? That's a thing? So I quickly, like, ran down to Tier 1, like, Jean, save me one. So she did. And, like, I tried to find one of those, the cargo container boxes.
Yeah, but they're gone.
Sold out.
Really.
Thankfully, Kurt for my birthday got me one of those, so I got one.
Nice.
I'm like, oh man, this is awesome.
And they're super rad models, so that whole kit has so much scatter terrain.
You have one of those?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got one of those too, sitting in a box.
We're having a conversation here.
Sorry,
that's not Shadow War Terrain.
Okay, I'll go find the
This
corner.
is an AB conversation.
Put
cool, though.
on
So
the
have...
filter.
Oh,
that's right. I stole that one.
That's okay. We're gonna gift it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really rad terrain kit, and it kind of it's continued me buying random ass terrain that I'll probably use. I might not, but God, it looks good.
Yeah.
And for $40, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I'm conditioned from. I missed out on the original Void Shield generator. I got the Plasma Obliterator, but I'm conditioned for all of these terrain things to be. Yeah, we got one run, and then they're gone away. So if I see a terrain piece that's even like slightly cool, like I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Did you try the mission that's in the Gravite?
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
Oh, they come with missions?
Yeah, it comes with a mission too.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm curious to see if it scales or like translates into 8th edition, because it's definitely a 7th edition.
Oh yeah,
mission.
yeah. It's kind of like you can move them in the center, and one person, like, they're like, oh, you must destroy the means of production and cargo and stuff like that before you go in. So it gives it kind of like a toughness and wounds characteristic for each of the pieces, and the attacker has to destroy each of the pieces, but you as a defender can move them.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, it's like, I think like they gave it characteristics, and it seems like it's going to be kind of like 7th edition-y, or I'm sorry, 8th edition-y, because I think like they had that philosophy, but still it's like it's 7th edition rules. So it's like, they're all strength 7. I think 2 of them are 3 wounds with a 3-up save, and the crane itself is like
they gave them wounds.
Yeah.
So that's like 8th edition stuff.
Yeah, it'd be fairly easy to translate, I feel.
I think they just don't have that, like, with like vehicles, it's supposed to change their stats or something like that. And then also they didn't have the auto hit things. And I think there's also, I don't remember if there's initiative characteristics or not, even though there isn't one for that vehicle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of cool because I think it's like 3 objectives, and I think the defender puts it on their table edge in their deployment zone. And like the crane can't move, but the other 2 can move 6 inches. But if you have the crane hooked up to the
then it can
tractor,
move the crane.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
And I don't think you have to have a guy on next to it either, so it's not like artillery, so you can just like truck around with it. So
because it's all like some servitor with a remote control far away.
Nice. I like that.
I think in the rules, like they were talking about, like how you could just use anything that's suitable. So it's not like you could still use the rules without having like the
actual
model.
kit.
Grab yourself a Tonka truck.
There you go.
And you're good to go.
BA.
Man, I miss that thing.
So that was cool. It did take a little bit longer than I thought it was going to put together.
Yeah, it was pretty.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
Is it fiddly or is it just
No,
there's just a lot of pieces?
absolutely not. Although I think there's optional parts that go into the tops, like the little circle, like there's that grabby arm.
Yeah,
and the cutter.
There's one
little...
spare piece.
Oh, okay.
Which is the hook. So you can have the
big. Right.
You can have like the big kind of like crane game grabby claw.
Is chosen.
Yeah, or you can have kind of like a little hook. I chose the grabby claw because it looks badass.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, I mean, some of the parts are interchangeable around where they go. What I found I spent kind of most of my time doing was kind of just shaving down the nubbins, like the clipping nubbins where like you kind of clip it off the sprue.
Oh, okay.
Because there was a lot of contact points there.
Oh yeah.
So that was where my time was mostly spent.
Yeah, I think like a lot of those, like the alternate bits. So like the and even though they're not extras, like the little aerials, they had like 2 or 3 aerials, and they had like the grabber claws, and they had like something else. Like, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
So I think like some of those like just kind of fit there, but they weren't like friction bonded very well. So I think like one claw in particular like kept like falling off. So I mean, you kind of have to either glue it or.
Oh, I glued all of that crap on there. Yeah.
Well, I hadn't read the rules yet, so it's kind of like, oh, we better finish this and then like read the rules, and if it matters, then
makes
I'll do
a difference. Yeah.
But then part of me is like, dude, this would look awesome on like a Killacan. So I'll just keep those aside.
Dude, just like the grabber claw as a fist. Holy, that'd be really great.
That'd be really cool.
So no, it was a really solid kit. It was really dope.
Yeah, nice.
Just took a while to put together. So it was up until like 1 a.m.
Nice,
like
but worth it. Yeah, I actually went to bed late that night as well because I was like on the couch, kind of making it. My wife was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed." I'm like, "I'll be right up when I'm done." I was like, "Yeah, I was up late."
2 hours later.
I was up late.
That's always the way it works.
So that's it. So
Yeah.
what have you been up to, Phil?
What you done?
Just playing my
30 games.
Yeah, I was gonna say playing my usual number of games. Been playing some Shadow Wars, which has been a lot of fun.
So rad.
Yes, a lot of fun. Really cool. We've been doing some of the different ones, like bringing in some of the specialists and doing like the lone operative game, which is really kind of cool. It's super brutal, but super cool. Just like the ability to bring in. Like, all of a sudden it's like, hey, all of a sudden Eversur,
Slime
instead of like surprise Harlequins, it was like surprise Eversur. So all up in your grill. And it was just kind of interesting. Just seeing like the variety that you can get with that game. You know what I mean? It's I know it seemed like it was like a quick, system that they kind of put together and but it. Because they don't,
well,
I was just gonna say they also, I guess they repurposed. They
put a lot of love in that.
Yes, into the original one, and it's like
I think
it's
mainly
cool.
kind of like the additional stuff you're talking about, right? Like like the lone operative missions and things like that,
stuff like that. Well, I was even thinking it seems like it didn't seem like they ever intended to like support this system like a whole lot. It was kind of like their thing where it was like, all right, we're just going to throw this out there, and then it did way better than they ever expected.
Yeah.
And
I heard they're actually going to cancel 8th edition and just do Shadow Wars.
I would be okay with that. Absolutely. You're gonna have to give me some more kill teams, but I think I'd be okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Really kind of diverse set of gameplay that you can have with it. But I just what I really want them to do is put out like a kit of ladders and walkways.
That'd be
like a kit of just ladders and walkways, so you can like help connect. Because at this point, we've been kind of doing.
They did that, but
you really,
I don't remember them doing
cool.
that with Necromunda at all.
I think it'd be really cool if they did that because get the vertical stretch there. Because if we don't have the actual
big box
like their stuff, you don't have a lot of these ladders and stuff, and it's like technically you're not allowed to go up unless there's a ladder. And,
I think at a train store. I actually went into one of the local train stores, hobby stores, and I think I found like it's not. I don't think it's Evergreen. There's a Plastruct. I think it is. Like they do like kind of custom shapes, and they had a whole bunch of ladders. So I just like bought them. I was like, I'm going to put these on the side of my Stampa.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean that would be.
Oh, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy. Boop, done.
I'll have to check it. I'll have to check that out because we've been using.
Well, I bought them all, so
you'll
have to ask them.
Please order more.
Yeah,
but it's a good.
That's a really good idea.
Hobbies. They're pretty good for a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because we've just been doing the ghetto where I put a strip of masking tape and be like, this is a ladder and this is a walkway.
Well,
and just been going that
fly strip.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just like just marking where it's supposed to be exactly.
So I will say in Shadow Wars, Eversur Assassin is so OP. So with a movement value of 6, it can run 18 or charge 18 because of the special rules.
Oh, okay.
And it also has a special rule where if at the end of your turn, if you are not down or in combat, you can put yourself in Overwatch. So like I'm playing this Eversur Assassin and I'm running at 18 inches going into Overwatch. He's at ballistic skill 8.
Oh,
so even at the -1, he's
he's still hitting on 2s. So
hitting on 2s,
and it's a sustained fire weapon with a 2-up poison.
No way
that you don't have to roll to wound for.
Oh balls!
So he was just dropping homies left and right. It's
pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Pretty brutal.
Okay,
but
good fun.
But it is a lot of fun, and that's the thing is like I have my usual fill rolls with these things, so I don't do super well, but it's still a lot of fun to be able to play it. It feels very tactical and it feels very interesting, and I like the whole mechanic of continuing with your kill team and building them, which is like part of I had thought I wanted to get into Necromunda for a while because I was like that concept alone really appealed to me. I thought it was really cool. It sounded a lot of fun, and being able to do it with my 40K models is even better. Like that's just like beyond better to me because I love the aesthetic. I love the aesthetic of the 40K models better than the gangers, to be honest.
But nothing beats like having a character who could lose a leg. You get a bionic leg, so now you have like an increase to your toughness. They lose an eye, you get a laser eye, and now they can shoot better. And then like just as you're like just beating the crap out of people, they die. You know, like there's something to that. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
Jesus Christ.
God, she's amazing now. And then she's dead.
Jesus Christ, how rich was your gang that you were buying bionic legs and laser eyes?
Well, I had an Archaeotech horde, so it's like, oh, here's free stuff. I'm like, sweet. And we had a reroll policy, so
I am grabbing my Ashers out of storage, and I think the next thing I'm going to do is Shadow Wars. After I'm going to do an Orc gang next, and then after that I'm going to do like an Inquisitorial Warband, kind of like Eisenhorn style,
that'd be cool.
using kind of like Asher gangers and Imperial Guard guys and things like
That'd be
that.
cool. I know that Mini Wargaming is doing like a Necromunda Shadow Wars thing where they're kind of like changing it slightly so that that you can play just Necromunda gangs in Shadow Wars, which I think is kind of cool. So they, you know, and the way Matt put it, he's like, it only takes like a little bit of tweaking to be able to do them. So yeah, it sounds kind of interesting. Sounds cool. So I've been doing that. I've also been slowly painting some Death Watch. I've been busy at work, so I haven't been able to hobby as much as I wanted to. But I've been
now you'll be able to
now soon enough. Yeah, off contract would be nice. But I've been slowly painting up some Death Watch guys. Like I've got painting up some Vanguard vets and some Terminators. So I've been painting those and basically only getting progress when I have to film my Deep Thoughts Thin Coat. So you know, I'll take it when I can.
So you're like 9 weeks ahead in filming now.
No, not even. But
so
yeah,
you've joined the 1 hour a week group.
What's that? Yeah, pretty much. I guess so. Yeah, inadvertently, yeah, I've pretty much been joining the 1 hour a week group. But yeah, so that's going to get long. It'll be kind of cool, and I'll have these other options that I could run those kill teams for like 3 days
Nice.
before I see what happens in 8th edition. So yeah,
Wah.
but I think it'll be cool. I think they're cool looking, and I modeled them just to be whatever I wanted. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right,
a lover, a fighter, and a
pretty
poet.
much, yeah, exactly. I was like, I want to melt a fist on my guy because that's just a cool weapon. It's like I don't know if points wise it makes sense to run it, but I'm like, that's cool. I want one, so now I'm going to model it up. And then I had like the Vanguard vets. I was like, double lightning claws, heavy thunder hammer.
Yeah.
This guy's got a power fist and a graph pistol because why not?
Sure.
Yeah, because sure, it sounds like fun, you know. So I've just been, you know, messing around and playing with that stuff, and it's been.
So speaking of poets, real quick, did we receive any haikus on Twitter?
No.
No. Oh, okay. I'm still waiting for the 10 tampon cases.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for haikus
we need
slightly
you to step up
more.
to the plate here.
More fan interaction.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the Puyel box in a bit.
Yeah.
So.
More fan interaction, less used feminine products.
Yeah.
So John, what have you been up to?
That's all I can say. Well, I have been up to not much. I'm reading, just like Ted.
Yes.
Kind of get caught up there.
It'll take you 2 weeks. 2 hours.
I bought and assembled some bikes. I've decided I'm going to fist. I'm fisting into 8th.
No.
That's so I like everything I'm reading kind of about the Marines and the restocking stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, and I have all of this heresy stuff in boxes still. And I think more than any army I have right now, the most unassembled in-box stuff is for my Marines.
Really?
So
and you have a lot of stuff that's assembled and painted. It is
yeah, yeah. I have about 3,000 points of Marines, but it's a very specific force. So,
okay.
Like I have like 80 tactical bolt gun guys.
Okay.
Like I have like 3 dreads and a couple other things and some 30k stuff too. Your
cabinet's looking a little bare. What's
I've been pulling stuff out.
Okay.
I'm playing it and messing around, and then also my dog bumped into it, so a bunch of it got knocked over.
Sad panda.
Yeah. So yeah, I've decided I'm going to be kind of focusing on Fist for a while. So like, I want to get a couple bike squads. I want to get an attack bike squad. Like every time I play against you, Phil, like I'm surprised about how effective attack bikes are.
They are.
And literally also how cool they look.
Yeah,
to be honest,
exactly.
Because right now with the rules being what they are and kind of everything in flux, I'm just kind of going by what looks really cool.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I'm going with that one.
Yeah.
I think I read. I mean, we're all members of that kind of 1 hour a night Facebook group.
Yeah.
I've read
Not Phil.
Not me.
1 hour a week.
1 hour a week.
I've read a lot of people kind of.
I love that group, by the way. Like that, it's a really positive, like really good group.
Not really complaining about the Fire Raptor kit, but kind of not, like, oh god, it's such a chore. Oh, it's all this kind of thing. I have an unassembled Fire Raptor kit, so I'm thinking of kind of putting that together on film. I'm putting that up there because
cool.
while it is hard, I mean, I have one I put together there,
Okay.
and it's kind of like if I can do it, then you can do it.
Wait, are you saying that I'm going to put it on film?
No, I mean,
Although
like
I am broke, so maybe that would help.
I mean, we kind of like if someone of my level is able to put it together to
Yeah.
kind of a satisfactory level,
Okay.
then most people should be able to
do it.
And it's a beautiful kit, so that also really helps too. So yeah, I mean, I've just been assembling stuff. I bought some of the Averland Sunset spray that finally came in stock locally. So
okay.
I mean, base coating guys left and right bought some
Nice.
bikes. So yeah, good to go.
Cool.
That's dope. I'm excited to see you doing a model build review video.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give it a try. I mean, I don't have the practice. I'm just going to be like, when your hypothesis is like, look, guys, it really isn't that hard. It's just fucking, it's a resin model. Get a hairdryer.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit more positive than that. I haven't decided kind of the tone the whole thing's going to go through. Oh, and then also, after last episode, I got messaged by Peter from NGC40K.
Okay.
He's super into the idea of doing newsreel reviews from the front.
Yeah.
So he sent me some samples of that. So I'm going to be putting together
cool.
some 1940s style newsreels. From
Very
those
cool.
guys.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay.
I'll let you have a listen to those in a bit there. No, you guys listening because
You'll never hear it.
you no. But no, it's super sweet. It's come along really, really good.
Cool.
I was like getting stuff from Peter.
Yeah.
Just like I get this random voice message, which is like this really funny audio clip. But yeah. Super, super good. But yeah, I haven't played really anything at all. I mean, I think honestly with like 40K, I'm on a holding pattern right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
A lot of people are. It seems like.
I'm good with 7th at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you were a lot of fun. I have lots of good memories of you.
Yeah.
I'm way too hyped for 8th. I feel I would be hypercritical of 7th now if I played it.
Oh, okay.
I feel I'll probably still do 1 or 2 more games just to kind of see the addition out. But for mostly, I'm just gonna paint my stuff, get ready.
Yeah.
You're gonna be doing some orcs for 8th, right?
Yeah. It's the summer of the orcs.
Yeah,
So.
it aligns with your summer of orcs, and then Phil, you're working hard on your
everything.
everything.
Yeah, my plan is this summer to make as big a dent as I can in my backlog of stuff that I've got going on. So I've still got a bunch of Deathwatch stuff, a bunch of Gene Stealer Cult stuff that needs to get painted up. I'm pretty happy with the Force of Dark Angels I have right now. I guess that might change depending upon what comes out in 8th, but I've got like enough stuff that I can. I've got a good spread in my Dark Angel stuff, so I'm looking forward to kind of building up my Deathwatch and my Gene Stealer Cult, so I have a bit more of a versatility going into 8th edition with them, trying to see what's available to play them with. So it should be interesting.
So I've been going back and watching do you ever see that guy as an orc player? You probably I hope you have. Ian Wyatt Waz. He's like a scratch builder. Like he does like everything out of plastic card. Occasionally he'll get a kit and like kit bash it, but he's just like his shit is amazing. Like it's Forge World level stuff. But he's been on YouTube for years. But he just does like these talkies. He's out of York, I think, UK.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But yeah, it's fascinating. Like he's doing a Warlord Titan for orcs, and he's building it like
Oh, is that the one? I think I may have seen. Is it the one that has like bits and pieces gone like the war? Oh,
no,
there's someone else.
That's really cool. Like, but that's a very expensive kit bash. Like he's going like he's doing every single bolt, every single nut, everything's out of plastic.
I think you'll find
beyond.
it's actually a Warlord Titan.
Waka waka.
Let's get that pun in.
But no, if you get a chance, like,
check it out
when you log into our YouTube. I haven't subscribed, so check it out.
Check that out there. Yeah, I've always been like, I really like orc players and stuff who kind of make their own stuff from scratch.
Yeah,
I have to have a solid base to go from, though. You know, I can have like a little bit of plastic card and a little bit of rivets, but there's never been a time I've looked at like 75 sheets of plastic card and be like, let's do this.
Yeah. All right. I'm also the opposite. I'm the opposite, where it's like I just basically stick to the kits, and the most I do is like change out heads, I change out arms and stuff. Like the most, quote unquote kit bashed kit that I've ever done was I created my librarian on a bike by putting a psychic hood that I carved out of a shoulder pad onto his head and changed out the sword in his hand. And that's about as close as I've come. I've cut off some arms and I've cut off, done things like that, but that's about it. Because otherwise, I have a hard time building things like that. But it's just
different.
Yeah, no.
Spoilers for Beast Rises. I will be kit bashing myself a new chapter master.
Really? A little Thane?
Yeah, a little Thane action.
Nice.
Going on. Spoilers.
Good thing you didn't model Koorland.
Oh. So yeah.
He did, but the dog ate it.
Ouch.
His own beast ate it.
Man.
Well, we just ruined this last of the series for you.
Yeah.
So you'll have to wait 2 more hours.
I mean, luckily we record our intro like at the end, so we're gonna be like, "Don't listen."
Yeah.
If you haven't read, because we spoil it accidentally several times in the past 3 episodes you've already listened to.
That's the one thing I'm very happy about this episode is that I no longer have to worry about spoiling the series.
Well, you
for
already
you
did
too.
it last.
I know, but I don't have to worry about it anymore.
We had no choice, Ted. There was
John
no
was
choice.
there to back you up.
Yeah,
and
you
spoiling
guys
it.
made that choice.
I keep making that choice. Should we have Phil on the show or not? All right, let's call Phil.
It's a difficult decision every single week.
Oh my! Wait, every week? When are you guys recording with that? This is every 2 weeks.
Oh, right.
But
He doesn't know about unmob rules.
It's like the Fight Club.
Yeah, exactly. Don't talk about rule
talk
number 1
about-
of unmob rules. Don't talk about unmob rules. Rule number 2: make unmob rules. We haven't gotten to rule number 2 yet.
I believe your podcast is called "No John's Allowed."
It's the subtitle.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be talking about our last 3 books in the Beast Arises series when we come back.
Okay, let's get into it.
We're kind of excited to get this finished. I mean, not because we don't like the story and all that other kind of stuff, but we're also like, we're going to do this every month and we're going to review them as they come out. And now it's like 5 months after it's finished, and me and Ted are like, we gotta do this.
Yeah. I'm glad we just bit the bullet. And,
and did it.
I would like to emphasize that it was those two who have been waiting for 5 months to finish it. I've been
chomping
done
at the
for a
bit.
long time.
Shut up, you
I will
overachiever without kids.
Yeah.
I do read.
I like to hide behind the kids, but really, it's
I was going to say, I'm really slow reader. I don't know how you guys didn't catch up to me.
I did read 2.5 of these books today in about 6 hours. So I'm blessed, cursed with speed reading.
So
well,
we're on the-
and made notes on top of that.
I was going to say, so we're on
doubles my reading.
So we're on the opposite of Ted when it comes to modeling things. I'm the opposite of John when it comes to reading things. So
to be fair, one of my notes I just opened up here just says "lol" with an arrow. So it's more of a reminder for me.
Just, hey, remember to read this.
remember to lol here.
Actually, I think like Amanda read it and put those notes in there. Hey, John, read this. Hey, John, read this. That's why it took 2.5 hours.
So yeah, that's it. So we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back and we're going to spoiler. We're
gonna rise this beast all up in here.
We're gonna talk about the last quarter of the Beast Rises, and we're also probably gonna summarize the whole series because why the hell not?
Yeah.
All right. Well, see you in 2 weeks.
Man, my old lady's so moody right now. I hate that time of the month.
Not me. I buy generic tampons. They clean up all that gross lady stuff, and she's happy because we've saved money.
Wow, generic tampons.
I'll have to give those a try.
Damn, I can't believe I lost another game. All of my dice are rolling once.
Quit the whining, man. You should change your cotton.
Another rending hit! Thanks, generic brand tampons.
Generic brand tampons, not just for ladies. For a limited time, send in 6 applicator sticks for a free dice bag.
And we're back to finish what we started probably more than a year ago, about 18 months ago.
Yeah, it's close.
Because we were pretty hyped about this series coming out.
Yeah.
Kind of like even from the little fluff blurbs we read about in Old Orc Codexes about the beast.
Yeah.
And how this, huge one. Like, hey, we're going to tell you about it. Like, and they're like, oh, also, there's going to be this like Grand Master called Vangorich in there. And I'm like, I know about that too. So it was like super hype though the whole time.
So you had known about Thane and Vangorich, because I remember you mentioning Thane at
So-
one point, and then the beheading and so on. I mean, were some of these like researches that you did when we started the series, or was it like stuff that you knew beforehand?
The Thane stuff was.
Okay. Was which?
Stuff I found out after we started reading it. The Vangorich stuff is stuff I knew before, like, because I'm huge on kind of like the timeline bits in the book, where you just kind of read along. It's just these stupid little stories or like 2-sentence blurbs, and you're like, whoa, bud, tell me more. I want to know more. What happened there?
Okay.
And the beheading is kind of one of those kind of style of blurbs, as is kind of the beast.
Okay.
So kind of going in as soon as I read Vangorich, I was like, oh, that name's familiar. Go back through my books there, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. And then when the Amazon, released the names of all of the books of the series, and the last one is called The Beheading, and I'm like,
I know Games Workshop really tried too. Like
they really did
releasing
try.
like 3 at a time.
Yeah.
and then Amazon's just like, yep, whatever. Here's all 12.
By the way, you can read it now for free.
So today we're gonna be talking about the last 3 in the. I know like a sequel, a trilogy is like 3 movies. What's a 12?
A series.
Yeah. The last 3 books in this series of the Beast Who Rises, Tales of the 32nd Millennium. We have number 10, Last Son of Dorne by David Guymer. Number 11, Shadow of Olenor by Rob Sanders, and finally the aforementioned Beheading by Guy Haley.
Nice.
Yep. Lots of stuff kind of happened in this in these 3 books. Let's talk about Last Son of Dorne.
Okay.
To me, Last Son of Dorne was purely there to establish the Death Watch in their tactics and as a fighting force. Kind of start maneuvering the High Lords to where they needed to be, and then also kind of.
Have some awesome battle scenes.
Had some awesome battle scenes. It gave us our our Deus Ex Machina. So kind of that's kind of my takeaway from Last Son of Dorne. What are your kind of thoughts or Ted?
So at this point, I think we now have the secret weapon. We have I think that was in number 9 really, but they led up to this, and so it was
right. They're doing the raids and getting the sisters.
That's right. They're leveling their characters. So and I was kind of
grinding it out.
Yeah. So I think like it has been a lot of like assembling the team. Like this is the Avengers, like the ups to the Avengers movies.
Yeah.
So you're getting Iron Man, you're getting Spider-Man, you're getting all those guys. And I think like you're laying the groundwork for what's to come. I mean, I guess like that's always the case, but I think in a lot of ways, like that really, like in a lot. I think some of these books, like they really felt like it was the bookkeeping. It was like, okay, now we have to get to this. All right, we know A has to go to B, and so we're going to do this.
So I mean, in book 10 in kind of book 9, they kind of got the plan of we're going to get the Orc Psychers, we're going to use them as a bomb. Book 10 is when they go and actually get those Psychers for the most part. Yeah. And it was a combination of kind of getting those Psychers and kind of establishing their potency as a weapon.
Yeah.
And also kind of showing off the development of the Death Watch.
Yeah.
I mean, more than anything.
I think... You thought that was number 10 mostly, the Death Watch? I thought that was mostly like not 8.
Well, it's 8 and 9 as well, but very much 10 as well. I would say kind of because it's showing.
I think they're established really by this point.
Yeah,
so
through 8,
but they are showing that off. Like, for sure.
Through 8, 9, and 10, it's kind of a development of them as a fighting force. You know, where 8, where they all randomly show up in a courtyard. I'm like, oh, I painted my armor black too. To this one of kind of being like specific cells sent to do like specific things at specific times across galaxies.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool because it showed them each of the different missions were going after an Orc Psyker in very different locations and different situations, and it showed the diversity that the Death Watch were going to do, like that they were very mission specific. You know what I mean? Like they had the one where they were going after the guy, and it was like the frozen wastes there, and they were with the Valhallans, and like they're taking off in like modified attack bikes. You know what I mean? So that there's like 2 of them going on because they had to go across this like giant, frozen wasteland to try to get across there, and there's like already established battle lines that they were going into.
Yeah.
And then there was other ones where they had to like infiltrate. Wasn't there like an underwater?
Yeah, it really reminded me of like the Shadow Wars terrain set where they have like a massive oil rig.
Yes,
because that's how it's described to me as well. So I just imagine like that's great because like as I'm reading this, I'm picturing this display in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
Them kind of breaking into this because they start in the water. And it kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean vibe of kind of like walking around this on the seafloor, and then kind of going in the bottom and just taking everyone by surprise.
That one was kind of like weird because I think like from the very beginning they realized like, all right, like our sister's probably not going to last. I think they had like 1 or 2 characters that were like, look, they're not going to be able to survive the depths of the ocean for very long, so we have to go in there and they're probably going to die, but we're going to get that Orc and we're going to pull them out, right? Yeah. So they were kind of like, I think towards the end, at least they knew like her life support's not going to last through this trip,
which is weird because she is like the one person that is necessary for her to succeed.
Right? Yeah, and they were just kind of like nonchalant, like, she's going to die.
Yeah, but you also showed them that like sacrificing for her to make sure that she as much as possible. Which I thought was kind of cool that they that a lot of these they went like, which kind of goes to I guess the ethos of the Death Watch where it's like they're smaller squads that are being sent into situations where where usually if you go in with like a chapter strength force, you're, unless you're the Imperial Fist, you're probably going to do well. Imperial Fist, if you go in large numbers, you're probably all going to die.
Your entire chapter's going to
they're just going to wipe out. That's what they do best.
Like
the chapter wasn't even there, but they still got wiped out.
Yeah. there was a really bad cold that hit during that time, so half the chapter dies.
I mean, what they find out after 9 here, just to kind of recap, is the way to they create bombs out of weird boys, pretty much.
Okay.
So they found that when weird boys are around a lot of orcs, then all of their psychic energy kind of rises up, and that's kind of where their psychic power comes from. So they figured if they put a Sister of Silence beside a weird boy and cut him off from that psychic power, and then just suddenly take her away, then it overloads
it's
them.
like a dam.
Yeah, it overloads and everyone's heads explode within radius. So that
was kind of weird. Like, I mean, it felt a little, I don't know, like makeshifty. But I mean, it's not a tactic that they employ currently.
Right?
Like, so it was a one and done. Like, that was too good. Let's hide this tactic now. So that felt a little bizarre, but it was. I don't know. It was still interesting and a beautiful visual.
I mean, at the same time, you do need that kind of Deus Ex Machina of how do I defeat the largest Orc with trillions of orcs, like quickly and efficiently.
When a Primarch couldn't handle it on his own,
Okay.
So,
although I guess like after this, the sisters disappear for a long time.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So maybe that's like that whole thing goes away.
Yeah, I think like fluff-wise, they've only really recently come back. So, but yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting, seeing. Like they said, they came up with this concept of what they were going to do, so they needed to go collect these orcs, these weird boys, so that they could make the bombs essentially to go in there and try to strike at them. But I just thought it was kind of cool seeing the Death Watch go into these situations where the odds weren't stacked in their favor and adapting to the different situations and going in with different forces, with different gear, with different equipment, depending upon what the actual mission required, which is goes directly into the whole Death Watch idea.
So then they bring the orcs back.
Yes.
They get a ship with the 3 of them on it. I think Koorland, he's been playing a sanatorium for a little bit. I think he decides, like, all right, he's ready, so he's going to assemble everybody, and he decides that he's also going to be the one to deliver the final blow.
Yeah.
Because they know, of course, like in the previous books, we discover where they are. Of course, they're in Alinor. They're in Gorkograd, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Gorkograd. I love that.
And so they're all going there, like a big old army. So this is the second time they've gone there. Yeah. So they're prepared. They're ready for it.
Yeah, but this also wasn't this like they were sending like all the forces they had left.
Oh yeah,
like the Imperial Senate, the High Lords of Terra were just like, because we're like, you can't do that. You're going to leave us completely exposed. Like there's if you take away all these forces to go on this crusade, there's nothing that we can do. And then Koorland's like, if we sit back, they're not going to be able to do anything anyway. They're not strong enough to protect Terra. Yeah. Like we need to take a proactive strike at them.
It was still a fairly ragtag affair because politics still bogged stuff down. So they didn't have all the Navy ships. They didn't have all the Astra Militarum. They didn't have. So they kind of had like a ragtag group of guys and kind of an insane plan.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think my favorite is like Koorland teleports down with what can only be described as kind of like a Death Star.
And yeah, that's right. Real quick, like is this the first time that they've used teleport technology, orc teleport technology? That's been retrofitted. I can't remember if they used
No. This was just regular teleporting.
Yeah, this is just a regular.
Because I think that who was it that was using? Was it the Death Watch that was using
the
orc
to blow up ships and stuff? Yeah, they were using the teleport. Yeah.
So Koorland teleports down to Gorkograd, this capital in Alinor.
With his Death Star.
With his Death Star. And there's like shields and protection, so he gets scattered. He mishaps. And he scatters.
Orc's going to place him.
And he landed in this room, and it was like 3 chapter masters, an Ogren, a Bulgrin.
Oh, yeah.
A random commissar.
Who's running the Bulgrins.
Who's running... Oh, yeah, he's running the Bulgrins. That's what he's there for?
Yeah. Because the Ogren and Bulgrin were just like, ugh. So they had to have a commissar to like run them until
that's like old school Imperial Guard rules.
Yeah.
Like they used to have a
so they come down and then they realize like they've scattered, like, oh well, there must be fields that are stopping us from teleport. Oh shit, we have 3 more squads teleporting in. So they start to clear out just as like the next guys come down.
Yeah, because they didn't want them to like teleport into their bodies because they were going to teleport in the exact same small room.
But I really like the fact the orcs kind of they forced them to all teleport to this one spot. Like I said, this as the series has progressed, like the orcs have gotten kind of smarter and smarter and smarter about it, and they're kind of displaying these tactics of let's rush just tons of boys. Well, I mean they do that too, but that's not like the angle was just not to rush a bunch of boys.
Yeah.
And then kind of this for one of a better word, kill team or Death Star kind of heads on to where they think the main throne room is.
Yeah. They're going towards where Beast Kroll had seen the giant, what he thought
I
was
think
the Beast.
Vulcan had got to that room too, because he duked it out with the Beast.
Was
and
that the
lost.
same? Was that the same? I
I don't think that was the same room.
I don't know if
You
that.
don't
Yeah, I
think
don't know
so?
if that was the same
Okay.
room. I know that they had duked it out because Koorland was there when when Vulcan had duked it out. But I think this was like Beast Kroll was like, I don't want to go there. That scared me, and that's when everyone was like, "Oh damn!" If Beast Kroll's scared, then that says something. He's like, "Yeah, it does say something." So he was like leading them to that place, and he's like, "I really don't want to do this, but here we go. I guess we're gonna do this."
Like one of my, I sticky noted this before they decided, like, okay, well, we're kind of fucked, but we should probably go and try and kill the Beast anyway.
Yeah.
Beast Cruel says, "We came all this way. I brought all my favorite knives." And then according to how many, he said, "Enough for me." It was at this point I decided that Beast Cruel was just Jason Statham.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
a big Jason Statham.
Yeah, absolutely. He was just Jason Statham. That is, and ever since for like the rest of the 2.5 books, that was all I read was just Jason Statham.
I can see that. Yeah.
Poor Cruel.
Yeah, I love that guy. He was so cool character.
So while this Death Star is kind of in the main fortress, kind of working its way towards the Beast to kind of take it out of the head, you have your distractionary force of Fist Exemplars and Black Templars and
Were the Fist
and kind of
Exemplars there?
Imperial
I
Guard.
think they were
There's about
gone.
40 of them. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
not
There's
huge
a small
amounts
contingent.
there.
yeah, because there was like a lot of them
What
were
was left?
yeah, because there's a bunch of them that are lost,
Hanging out with
hanging,
Iron Warriors.
hanging out with the Iron Warriors.
Chilling, drinking tea.
Yeah.
So, and it talks about kind of how awesome they are. Like, I have another sticky note here that says BS9. Because it said, as for Thane himself, he was too humble to keep a personal tally, but his helm display recorded it for him. 319
right.
kills for 319 rounds expanded. One shot,
Yeah.
one kill.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to boast about it, but I'm the shit.
Yeah.
Oh, Execrators as well. But yeah, kind of just a bunch of Space Marines, and they're driving forward. And the whole idea is to kind of distract the majority of the Wa away from the palace.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's being run by the Beast.
So at this point, didn't they get out? I thought they had used one of the Psychers against some orcs, or was that later on?
Oh, so no, earlier in the book, they accidentally did.
Yeah, that's right.
One went off.
Yeah, and it ended up like because they got hit by like a big wave of orcs, right?
Yeah. And then the Sister of Silence died or was too far away.
Yeah.
And she, like, it just blew all their heads. So like, oh shit, this works.
Yeah.
All right.
That was amazing. Like battle wagons just came to a stop and
Yep.
everything.
Was it this one as well where they landed? No. That was a
Same.
different one here.
Yeah.
We're talking about 12 at this point here.
Okay.
It all goes together. But they really start the imagery in this book of indestructibleness.
Yes.
And kind of throughout. So, I mean, they go on about their Umber Pattern bolters a bunch. It's practically indestructible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that Thane is like stuck on this Umber pattern bolter.
Yeah.
And just like he just loves it. He
Yeah.
just, like I don't know.
Yeah, he's like,
Googles at
he's
it
like,
when
he's like, yeah, there's newer stuff, but this is what I've got.
It's a tank.
This one is mine.
it's the irony of the Imperial Fist having something indestructible.
So they get into the chamber, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think at this point, like, there's no orc, right?
Yeah, because
But they see six thrones
Yeah.
that are massive in size.
Massive giant thrones.
I will say on their way there,
Yeah. Okay.
Laurentis, the Magos who's making sure
that's
that
right.
the bomb goes off.
And they made sure that he was there. I think
Yeah.
like what's his head? Kubrick didn't want him there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he asked if they could stop killing so many orcs.
Oh, that's right. He
Because
wanted to
they,
study them.
he was like, because it's like for this bomb to work, we need lots of orcs
Oh, okay.
alive and nearby.
Yeah.
Please stop killing so many. While like they're being just assaulted from all over by boys. And it does mention as well, they
Use your
get
tasers, boys.
Yeah.
they get
to
progressively
stun.
bigger as like the further in they go
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, they come into the throne room and they see kind of like the 6 big thrones.
Yep.
And
It's
then
like Castlevania in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because you can go through the castle, the guys get bigger and
Yeah.
fatter.
As you're leveling
Enter the
up.
dragon.
but what I super liked is they described the symbols on each like orc throne.
Oh, okay.
And it was
all the
each
clans.
different clan. So there was an evil sun chair, there was a snake bite chair, there was a death skull chair. Now it didn't obviously outright say this is the evil sun spot,
Yeah.
but like it described, or the bad one's like there's like of a yellow half moon on, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. So it's kind of like, almost. I don't know if it's the start of the clan structure. I don't know how it was like before.
Yeah, you can kind of tell who's not the orc player because I did not pick up on that at all. I was like, oh yeah, there's 6 of them. Cool. That's about as far as I got on that. Yeah.
But so like one of these guys approaches from, I forget which clan guy approaches. But
I don't remember either.
a big old dude comes out, and Koorland kind of just steps out in front because it's described as almost kind of like an arena, kind of like from Gladiator.
Yeah.
Where like there's like thousands of orcs watching from up high and kind of whatever remains.
That's like the balconies and stuff.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
And they had Stampas in there, didn't they?
Yeah, they had Stampas.
Yeah. 2 Stampas by
Chilling.
the door.
No, they didn't have. They had Gargants in there.
Oh, was that it?
It was Gargants,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
Stampas.
Oh my gosh!
So
this room is ginormous.
Yes.
I have such a hard time like envisioning exactly how big this room is because for me, like, I mean, if you could fit a Gargant and something, it's not a room anymore.
Yeah.
like it's just
No,
not
for sure. But that's, I mean, I think that's part of this whole thing is that like the scale of 40K is just so ginormous, and this is another example of it, like the kind of scale because they talk about like the throne room like being like guarded by Warhound Titans, and it's like that's a giant room if you've got Warhound Titans that are able to guard your room.
I have nothing in reality to compare it to.
Yeah.
I've never been in anything that's like half
That
that size.
spacious.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's anything that
I think it would
that
almost
my
be
mind
like
shrinks it.
being in like
for
one
sure.
of like a giant NFL stadium, but with a giant dome roof and 4 times the size.
Yeah, it would have to be like a
Gotta
super
go to
giant
NFL
NFL
stadiums,
one, yeah.
I guess. 'Cause I still have a hard time
Get
with
into
that.
sports ball, Ted.
Jesus Christ. Score the points. But when this orc starts walking towards, he kind of turns around and it's kind of revealed to be this like huge, massive, hulking, scarred beast.
Now, was this the one where they saw him and they were like, "That's a strange sculpture," or is that one Vulcan?
No,
that
was Vulcan earlier.
Yeah, but I think this is the same one. This is what
No. This is spoilers. This is a different one.
Yeah, but at this point, I think they think it's the same.
Yes,
one.
they think it's the same one. But Koorland assumes he knows, like, the beast knows some low Gothic because of what he says. And he says the words, "I am Slaughter, I am the Lord Commander of the Imperium of Man, and I have come to kill you." Doing his best Pablo... What was it, Pablo Montoya? Yeah, I've come to kill you. And then it describes, the beast did not laugh, it should have done, but it did not. It sprung up its arm. My favorite thing in this entire book is the description of the beast's gun.
Yes.
Oh gosh,
Yes.
the size of a battle cannon.
Yes.
No. It's assemble an impossible array of firepower. 2 bolted together battle cannons form the mainstay. That twin link was surrounded by autocannons, heavy flamers, rocket launchers, and multi-barreled weapons of orc make that Koorland had never seen on any battlefield and could not identify.
Yeah.
So I just imagine just
This is like one guy holding this.
Yeah, he has like a Lehman Russ.
That's how
on his
big it
arm.
is. Yeah, seriously.
this duct taped together contraption on his arm.
Man.
But it's a short fight.
Yes.
Oh my god, I felt so bad because like as this guy's dropping, like it takes forever. Like he's going like 1-on-1. He's trying to build up like the hype in the room because he's trying to get like the Y energy. So Koorland's just duking it out.
Yeah. Which is why he did that was because he was
Yeah.
trying to build up that Y.
So he's doing that, and he's like supposed to signal to the sister to basically kill herself, right?
No, it's later.
Okay,
They
so
just back
they're
away
supposed
the
to do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's waiting for it, like building the hype, building attention, and I mean, granted, he's legitimately getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, he has like they talk about his arm breaking and like everything breaking.
Yep.
His face, his chest.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
He's just getting messed up. I think his gun is gone. His
No, not his Umbra pattern bolter. Oh wait, no, that's
Well,
Thane.
that's later.
yeah.
Thane.
So we're back to Koorland. This is back when Koorland's still around. And
Spoilers.
So he's taking this guy, like he's getting just ass kicked, and eventually like they pull the plug just as he's is he bringing his sword into him?
So
or?
what happens is the beast grabs Koorland and kind of lifts him up to kind of like troll style kill him, like and crush him. And he takes a little ceremonial ceremonial.
No, it's Dorn's sword.
Dorn's sword, and he stabs him in the eye.
Yeah.
And at that point, he's like, "Ah, no shit, that hurts."
Yeah.
Drops him down. At that point, the sister backs away, and when she kind of removes herself, that causes the orc's head to explode, which kind of finally fells the giant orc.
Did that kill him, or I think it like almost killed him, and then they had to finish him off, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I think they did some kind of like sweet combo finishing move
like,
between him and Beast Cruel.
Was it was it Beast Cruel or?
I thought it was the
Bohemond.
Imperial. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the Black Templar guy.
Yeah.
Yes, Black Tower guy.
So he-
Bohemond.
Yeah,
Bohemond. Bohemond.
Yeah.
You're going to see our confusion in a second here because as soon as they're like, "Yes, we killed the beast, it's over," a bigger orc.
And it was a great battle. Like it was, it felt like it was all right. This is done.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Why do we have 2 books still?
And then they're like, and then a giant orc turned around that was twice the size of the one that they thought was the giant one, and that was the one that killed Vulcan.
Yeah.
So runs over and steps on Koorland.
Yeah, just crushes him.
Pretty much like instant one hit kills him, and Koorland's dead. Yeah. And it makes me sad.
D-strength stomp.
It makes me sad because the last Imperial Fist is legitimately dead.
Yeah. So all those other the posers, it's up to them.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. I think my favorite part about it though is like when Koorland died. It says here Bohemond called for an apothecary to come and help him. But the beast knew enough about space marine biology that he crushed the gene seed in his throat so it couldn't be saved.
Yeah.
And it specifically points out that it's like he knew it was there. And he crushed it anyway. So like he legitimately ended the Imperial Fists. Because that specific gene seed was no more. And everyone was super sad.
So that was the end of book 10.
That was book 10.
And so now the Imperium has been completely just fucked. Like the orcs are their confidence has grown. Like their military acumen has grown. Like they start running the place.
If we're counting, this is 2 failed invasions of Eleanor.
Yeah.
With 2 different game plans. And I really like how the first chapter of book 10 is just, wow, the Imperium's really fucked.
Yeah.
Talk about how everything's...
book 11.
Oh, sorry, book 11. Yeah. Like one of the notes I have here just has diggers because there's a bunch of humans.
That's right.
The join would defect to the orcs. Either because they're scared or impressed by power. There's some who, if we remember, Mesring, the High Lord of the Ecclesiarch, said, "Hey, just join the aliens."
Yeah. When did he get shot? Was he not Mesring? Was it Mesring?
Yeah, Mesring was shot by Koorland.
Was that
in book
number 10
9.
or 9? Oh, okay.
In book 9. Yeah.
All right.
But that's when that was. I guess that was when Koorland was like consolidating the power, like because he had, everyone was like, the High Lords are like messing with you. You have to take power, and he comes in and he's like.
Oh, he's all like hopped up on poison from Vangorich and everything.
Yeah,
so he's already,
exactly.
Like,
Vangorich is in his ear, and he's like, "You're right. I need to go and I need to take him out." And Vangorich is like, I mean, okay, yeah, maybe, but
yeah,
that seems a little much."
And it goes into talking about how the orcs are just decimating the supply chain of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Like, they're specifically killing navigators. So people don't. It says here that Titans are laying dormant in vast hangars because no one's telling them where the fuck to go. So just kind of like the utter kind of chaos that's in the Imperium right now. Oh, I also have a sticky note here that says Dark Angels always struggle. The Dark Angels spread across scores of subsectors and various undertakings.
Yeah, because we had a lot to do. Because the Imperial Fists were just dying, so someone has to stick around and actually do something.
Sorry, did the Imperial Fists, were they fallen? No. Struggled to reform and offer a counteroffensive.
They fell and died.
Squabble, squabble, squabble.
Squabble, squabble. So yeah, like it's 20 solid pages of just, this is how fucked the Imperium is
how
right
your
now.
life sucks.
Yeah, this is how your life sucks. My other sticky note here, chapter 1, Galaxy fucked. Galaxy 2 starts with a sunrise, which I thought was like a really good like thematically, because it says the sun rose over the Imperial Palace.
Yes,
so it's like, oh, there's hope coming in there.
Yeah, it was like that first chapter was it was basically trying to describe, because like the whole like ethos of the 41st, the 41st millennium, 40,000 is that it's like it's the grim darkness. It's a dark time for humanity. Things are bad, and it was like this chapter was like, you think it's bad in 40,000? Guess what it's like here in like 30,000, or 32,000 or whatever it is. 38,000. What is this? 32,000. Where it's like, it's like you thought it was bad then. It's way worse now.
Yeah.
So, I feel a lot of this book is, and suddenly Vangorich is evil because reasons.
Oh, he's not.
I think
we should get it, unless you have like some good thing right now. Like, I think like it really kind of pans out in the end.
Well, I mean, he's like,
it goes in ways.
Well, yeah, but he
I shouldn't say pans out.
I was like, he's not evil, like, because I mean, the best bad guys are the ones who think what they're doing is justified.
Yeah.
In this book, he really starts consolidating his power.
He does.
And kind of moving all of his pieces in place.
So I think for the first several books, like, he's been really passive in a lot of ways. Like, he's kind of like, he's been trying to direct the stream by, I think as he even pointed out, like by changing rocks.
Yeah, moving a
like,
pebble.
He moves a couple rocks and slowly adjusts like the stream. But now I think he's getting to the point where he's doing it with a bolter.
He's going to build a motherfucking dam.
Yeah. So he's trying to get the Inquisition, like he's trying to work them on, get them on his side. He's trying to put together plans. He's trying to get like his alliances so that he can go up against was it Urquhart and Vessering.
I think one of my favorite things is when he's talking to the ecclesiarch, the guy. He's like, maybe you should be a High Lord. We flew you over here, and he has this really deep conversation, like almost like he's trying to decide to do it or not. And then he just says, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then kills the guy. But in the most badass way.
So this was to replace Messering.
Yes,
so he was talking to this guy who was considering placing him, but he was kind of like giving him little litmus tests, like just little like, what is your answer here? What is your answer here? And then he decides that he actually likes the guy. And he's like, oh, well, I've given you too much information by the questions I've asked, so I have to kill you.
So what he does is he asks the ecclesiarch to bless him. So the ecclesiarch puts his hand on his forehead or on his head and says a blessing, unbeknownst that Vangorich's head is full of tiny bits of poison glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he gets a tiny cut from it and dies of slow poisoning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, because like
it goes got all the tricks.
It goes on to like the earlier the earlier passages where it says that Vangorich was wearing like robes, but like none of the guards would be able to find any conventional weapons on him.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of ways that guy can kill people.
Yeah, and I think like this book is really where it starts to come ahead, because I think he's, when you look back on it, he's always been like this, but the Officio Assassinorum has been, purposely knocked down like a whole bunch of pegs. Like they weren't they weren't in a High Lord seat anymore. They weren't like they had all these and they exactly, and they'd been knocked down because of things like this. And I think this goes to show where it's like, they have this like massive power over life and death, where it's like literally anyone they want dead could be dead if they so desired it.
I think like this is almost like in some ways like shows the naivete of the High Lords. It's because everybody's like kind of scared, like when is he going to kill us? When is he going to kill us? Like this guy has the ability and the sanction to do it whenever he wants, to whomever he wants, and with impunity. Like if he was really going to, come on, guys.
Yeah,
but don't be this worried that like you have to save your ass. Like
I think that's one of the things was like, that power got to his head, and then as it like,
well, let's get to that.
Well, I'm saying is, I think it's
now.
Like even before this, like from book one.
Okay,
I think this power had been in him, because in the beginning of the series, he seemed like he was like he wanted a seat, because he said this like that their office was owed this seat, and they had been taken away because of like the fact that they're scared puppies and they don't understand and all these things. And I think there was this like grudge that he kind of held towards the High Lords, and he was like, they can't really rule. They've always had this issue, and like you said, where he was like, trying to change the way the stream run by like moving a pebble, to try to like progressively get things to change. Yeah, like there's still that portion where he still thinks that he is the one that should choose how the stream changes, even if he's not like going out and like, killing everybody. He's going out and he's like trying to direct the way the stream goes, because he knows better than the panel of High Lords.
Well, I wouldn't say it's like a Dunning-Kruger kind of thing, where it's like this like almost like Machiavellian, I know what's best and so I'm going to make it all happen kind of approach. I do believe that it's like there is like an altruistic kind of thing where he sees what's going on and he's disgusted by what is going on, and like everybody who's not in the High Lord sees like the corruption and like the shit. Like Koorland sees it, Thane sees it, like the Inquisitors see it. Like once you get people aside, unless they're like Lansing, of course, like he's full of his own shit and they'll never be able to see it, but like other than a few people, like everybody sees the shit. And I think like for him, instead of just like, because everybody's benefiting, he's like one of the few people that are not benefiting from it, and he doesn't indulge in these like all the benefits that they kind of get. Like everybody's into like these hedonistic pleasures or like these these Machiavellian concepts and everything, and I don't think he does. Like he's genuinely like, this is bad for humanity, and so like my job is ultimately like, and I think that like I think his confidence in his, or maybe like his direction is becoming more pronounced, and I think like he is now like he's getting to that point where he's like, fuck, like I just saw Koorland shoot a guy in the head. Like, it's getting to the point where, like, even the Space Marines, who are like the greatest Arbites of society, are like done with the bullshit. So now he's like, all right, it's my turn.
Yeah, but I think that Koorland didn't get to that point.
Yeah.
Without being directed there by
Vangorich.
And the inquisitorial representatives didn't get to that point without his direct, like his,
I don't know about
pushing.
That. At one point, what's the name, Veralt, tried to kill Linen. So, before we even met him.
Well, but that was internal thing that was
Right.
going on between them and their stuff. But once they get to the point later when they kind of like join on his side, it was because he kept pushing the Stones to say, listen, I know what's best. And he kept thinking that I know what's best. And then progressively, as he's been getting more and more power because he's been changing things to the point that now, like, now Koorland was on his side, and he had the people that were going with him, that now suddenly he can decide who's going to be the representative from the ecclesiarchy, because he's just going to take out the people that he doesn't want to be there. You know what I mean? I think it was like a progressive thing where it's like, back in the beginning, he felt like he was the only one that knew what the Imperium needed done. But he knew that he couldn't act, because if it came down to it and everyone turned on them, even the might of as much as they had, they couldn't take on the entirety of the Imperium. But now, as he's been getting more and more power, and he's seeing that he has the ability to sway more and more, he begins to sway more and more, to the point that you get to this point in Book 11, when he's like, you know what? I can decide who the ecclesiarch. He has a seat as just the from his office, but now he's deciding who can get the seat from a different office.
He's a legitimate High Lord now, whereas at the start he was he wasn't even sitting.
So I guess that, I suppose that perception is correct. I mean, in that, like, I mean, that's valid. That's totally valid. And I say that almost sounding as though I'm like pompous, like, okay, I bequeath you.
No,
yeah. But I think like maybe like the
Do not know what bequeath means.
To give.
So,
Whom?
So anyway, I think like we have. Okay, so like maybe like the alternate perspective is like, so on one hand, he is, perhaps you're looking at it like he is anti-democratic. He is taking away the votes and the power of the individuals, and kind of almost like taking that power for himself, going to that Machiavellian kind of thing. Whereas like, on the alternate perspective, and they're compatible, although they are alternate, the other side of that coin would be like, he's doing it, but it's righteous because like the corruption is so deep, the doctor has to go in and cut out the shit. But the doctor ultimately is like taking the right away from like the patient to take care of their own shit, but the patient isn't doing it, so the doctor's having to go in and cut it out.
The way I kind of see it is in the series there are two parallel stories going along.
Oh yeah,
you have Vangorich. Well, there's a lot of that, but in this case, you have Vangorich, who's slowly getting. He knows what he has to do to save the Imperium, or and he slowly kind of falls to corruption to do it. And remember, throughout these books, the Inquisitors are talking about don't forget the true enemy. You can never forget the true enemy. On the other side of the galaxy, you have about 245th Exemplar, who are teaming up with Iron Warriors, because they believe that is what they have to do to save the Imperium, and kind of gradually falling to this corruption here. And it's kind of two things where, based on their perspective, what they're doing is right, but it goes against everything. So that's kind of my thing. There is kind of this gradual corruption kind of going on here.
Yeah, and I think like the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah,
and I don't think Vangorich ever, even at the end.
Okay.
Of the whole series, I don't
chronological.
Think, but this is just general.
Sorry, I'm really having a hard time going chronological. Like,
no, seriously, me too. But I think even at the very end, I don't think Vangorich ever thinks that anything he's ever done was for him.
Right.
He's never thought that. But he has always thought he knows what's right and what's best for the Imperium.
I think he's been right. I think he's been, for the most part, he's been right up until the end.
Well, but the thing is, when he talks about it generally, where he's like, we don't need corruption, it's like, okay, but in his mind, the way you don't get corruption is if you have him in charge because he can dictate what's not
No
corrupt.
one
or
can be
anything.
corrupt
Yeah,
if you
no
don't
one
have
can be
any
corrupt.
officials.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole thing is. It's like his opinion is that that the Imperium is corrupt, that the High Lords of Terra are corrupt, and I'm the only one who really knows what humanity needs. Like that's that's hubris of like the greatest extent that you're the only living soul who knows what humanity
I think
needs.
That's an exaggeration. I don't think he said that. I mean, I think he like of the High Lords for sure. Except for he did have his favorites. Of course, he had the Inquisition. He was like, all right, these guys.
He
are
had
my
the
homies.
one chick he wanted to bone.
That's right. For the longest time, I just kind of denied that. I was like, oh, he's not really trying to.
No, he's trying to. He's trying to fuck Inquisitor Winan.
But I think like him and the Space Marine, whoever the Space Marine was at the time, because it changes. Like like he had a couple in his pocket, and then he had and that was it. He definitely had his favorites, and so I don't think that he was like, because I think he genuinely wanted like Koorland to run it. I think he genuinely later wanted Thane to run it. So Thane steps up, and I think he was like, he's really kind of like, dude, this is your bag. This is your bag. Of course, I'm going to be like the guy behind the scenes, kind of like helping like pull the strings.
See,
but
I'm gonna black and white awful this. You know who else wanted to make a better nation?
oh, come on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that did.
Yeah.
I see what
Yeah.
I disagree because I see him because I see the way he manipulated and played the system. It was always like I think he saw Koorland as someone who didn't know, because even at the very beginning when he first meets Koorland, when they had that transmission when he talks to the High Lords and he happens to be the one to pick up, when he's talking to Koorland, he's like, you don't really get politics, do you? And Koorland's like, no, I don't like politics.
He's like grooming these people.
And that's when he's like, and he sees someone that's malleable. You know what I mean? Physically, he couldn't, he couldn't beat him in a fist fight.
There were like mentions, I think, in there, like, you can, because of their size and stature, you can almost see them as stupid.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, the way I think it was, and like, because in the beginning, it was like, just disdain for the High Lords. Like he was sitting on the side, like just like throwing shade from his from his little seat on the side, being like, "Oh God, do you see these? Oh, these sycophants! Oh, this is awful. This is gross. You guys are the worst." And then all of a sudden, as he sees an opportunity where it's like, "Oh, there's an opportunity for me to move a couple pebbles towards the way I think things should be. Oh, look at this giant pebble that's now come along here. Maybe I can use that giant pebble to direct the thing a little bit more." And then all of a sudden, the stream's going the direction he wants, and all of a sudden he's like, all right, now this is my stream. You know what I mean? And I think it was like a progressive thing that he was building, and it was always with the intention of him being the one who knew better than everyone else. And there were certain situations where it's like some of the things he spoke of were absolutely better than other ones. You know what I mean? And but
the High Lords were fucking the galaxy.
Yes, but at the same time, I think the darkness comes from the fact that he thinks he's the only one that can do this. Like he wasn't just like, you know what I mean? Like as much as he may be trying to have what he thinks is the better Imperium, I mean, we see towards the end of the series what his better Imperium is.
Let's move on, because I think we're probably going to have this conversation.
We will.
For more
We will. So in this book so far, Vangorich meets a new person he's wanting to recommend for the Ecclesiarchs, seat in High Lords, and then he accidentally tells him too much. Like it specifically says.
So this is the guy that pricks his hand.
Pricks his hand. He specifically says, "Fuck, I let my guard down. I told you too much. I'm sorry. Stroke my hair.
Touch my poison head.
Touch my poison head." After that,
shower.
Yeah, exactly.
Smash cut to. It's my favorite term.
Yeah.
Smash cut to Inwit, the home of Rogel Dorn, Lord of the Imperial Fists. May they ever rest in peace. Where to kind of mourn the loss of the Imperial Fists, all the successor chapters get back together again to hold a Feast of Blades.
Yeah.
This is very soon after the last one, but they feel kind of that's the best way to honor him.
Yeah.
Sadly, their current champion is dead.
Yeah.
So Thane kind of steps in and was a really badass fight scene. I mean,
super badass.
They don't go into as much detail in this Feast of Blades as the last one. I mean, I think the last one just kind of set up, this is what it is. This is how it works. And this one here, it describes how they're using blunted swords because they can't risk killing any more Astartes while this threat is still out here. But in this
It's
combat,
not any less brutal.
No.
Thane, this guy has like an old cybernetic arm, bionic arm.
And he's like, I think he's a Crimson Fist, right? And he's like bigger than most. He's like just a beefcake.
Yeah. And he's like, he's really good. He's had the arm for years. Thane ends up winning the fight by stabbing him through the shoulder, twisting the sword around and ripping the cybernetic arm out of his body.
I remember reading that. And I'm like cringing, just super cringing.
It's like, why would you use a blood sword for that?
God.
Yeah.
But I think like he's getting like pissed off. So it's not a fist of blades kind of thing. Like he's not just putting his all into it because he's like, I'm going to win this championship. He's pissed because like didn't he have an epiphany about like why the mission had failed and why Koorland was dead at this point? So he's like, now it's really personal.
And he kept goading on that champion that was like fighting him, because everyone else on the side was like, whoa, like things are getting like way too serious, and he's like, and
throw a ukulele,
exactly, and Thane's like, if you go easy, you're basically pissing on Koorland's grave, and the guy's like, well, I mean, if you put it that way, yeah, okay, let's go. Let's do this.
And then it was actually an execrator from that chapter. But what I really like about this is it kind of goes back to Dorn's reflection after he let the Emperor die, bad times. Where it's the pain of the fight and kind of being stabbed by blunt swords and the general motion kind of gave him clarity of what to do. And this is when he announces that they would reform the Imperial Fists out of the shattered remnants of their successor chapters, and kind of they make a beeline to Terra. Just he's like, I know what we need to do. We're gonna get shit done.
Party's over.
Yeah. Party's over.
Everybody get on the bus and start painting your armor. We're going home.
Pass out the highlighters.
Meanwhile,
get the Averland Sunset Spray. Let's go.
That's right.
They do as well. Meanwhile, smash cut.
Smash cut.
Other side of the galaxy. We go back to the rest of the Fist exemplars and their buddies, the Iron Warriors.
Calcador.
No storyline that's gone through this was more frustrating for me than this. Not because of like bad story, not because of bad writing, but because of good story. Where you're sitting there, you see them doing. It's like, how could you? Like, why? How is this? How is this a good idea? And like, part of you is always like, I can understand like you were thrown in like shit up to your eyeballs, and you're left with like this one. Lifeboat, and it just so happens that it's being driven by an Iron Warrior.
Oh, you mean your arch enemy?
Yeah, exactly. Where you see there,
who was responsible for massacring 70% of your legion.
Yeah. I know, but that's the thing is like you're drowning, and you see this lifeboat being driven by an Iron Warrior, and the Iron Warrior's up there. He's like, I can save you, but also understand that I'm driving this boat straight to hell.
Hey,
you can come for the ride if you so want. And he's like, ooh, I don't want to die, but I'm going to go.
And you see the Iron Warrior sitting on a crate of roofies.
Yeah, exactly. This is like, oh god,
this isn't going to end well.
Yeah, it was never going to end well, and it's like, oh.
But I think like this story, like for the longest time, I've been like, why are we? What this feels like a soap opera where it's like this parallel story that has nothing to do with anything. Mm-hmm. It can't possibly we're running out of books, so you're not going to be able to turn this into something. What the hell are you guys going to do with this?
Well, maybe it's a mirror story about Vangorich's fall from
sure, but
I
don't know. I mean, it seemed like it's kind of felt like a waste of time for a long time, and I think that was it. It was like, maybe it's a mirror story, but it's like
I think one of my favorite parts in book 11 and in general is the black ship they enter, and they meet with the old Inquisitor who has his toys, which like random psychers that have been picked up. Like he has the one who can just stop bullets. I have my note here says I got a Columbo vibe from him. The old detective. Just give me a second. You can't shoot me. This guy here stops bullets. And then he has another one who walks through walls and stuff like that. And he's essentially it's the first real time that that they try and point out how he's starting to fall to chaos. Zerbryn. And he's like, no, bro, it's good. We're fine. And he's like, no, I'm pretty sure you're trying me with Iron Warriors. And then my other favorite thing is they had locked up as another kind of brain dead psyker who they blinded so she couldn't visualize things to be reality, but she still has enough sight to see flame, and when she sees flame she makes water appear. And so he has a lighter in his cane that he just holds up to the window and he's like, you come closer. I'm going to drown you in this ship. I mean, I don't think he realizes Astartes have like really good breathing apparatus in there.
Yeah.
Giant suits.
He hasn't read the wiki.
But it's kind of a real, it's a real big kind of standoff.
That was good.
It's a real big standoff between the two, and Zebran's just kind of like, I don't know what you want. This is what I have to do, and you know, and it ends up in this big firefight, and it ends up that black ship getting destroyed. They get blown out into space and kind of barely make it back onto the ship. And I think this is kind of like the first time, and Zebran really Zebran really realizes, oh shit, this isn't good. People are after me now.
But then he seems to like double down on it. You know what I mean? Like he was like had this situation where he saw the situation, and like he even had who was the apothecary was the one that was like
crazy.
It was crazy, and he was like all about joining with the Iron Warriors.
Yeah.
But there was the other guy that was there who was like looking at him. He's like
The librarian or the Arcos.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And he's like every time you could just see, he was just like,
This is
I'm
bad
not
shit,
mad.
man.
I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
Like that you're making these decisions.
think-
He's like, I'll follow you because you're my boss, but
Yeah.
you're making the wrong
Part
call.
of me, I think, like the Iron Warrior story, like the thing I really liked about it is that, like, I think, you know, one of the neat things I mean, I think like reality in general is kind of like this. Like, they're really like, yeah, we could say that they're bad people, but we only can say that they're bad people through our own perspective. Like, when you actually start to like look into different people's perspective, it's like reality is just a series of interests that are conflicting, you know, like, and so I think like the Iron Warriors is a great example of that. Like, where, you know, like, unless you read the fluff, you're going to be like, oh, okay, it's just chaos, and chaos is inherently evil, and thus we can go on like this like draconian kind of concept of good and bad. But like, once you start to like look at that perspective, I think GW did, like, especially, I mean, in this series, but you know, it kind of opened my mind up at least to like the alternate perspective of like, okay, well, the Emperor, and this is like all stuff that we've been saying, the Emperor and like the whole like Emperor religion is bullshit and stupid anyway, and like here you have these Iron Warriors that are kind of like, they're not quite chaos. I mean, they are technically, but they're almost more like heretical and just traitors. Just we gave up on the system. We're rogue. Like we'll deal with chaos, but in a lot of ways, like they were fighting chaos.
Yeah, they cut off mutations and things like that. So yeah, they just.
So are they the bad guys? But then, like, their perspective, they have a very like pragmatic approach to like dealing with humans. They're like, we're trying to save humanity, but we also have this like, if you're not part of our system, if you get in our way, we're going to kill you. But then, do Space Marines not do that?
Yeah,
you know, like, so I think like they're really like the dialogue going back and forth kind of gets you thinking about like, well, maybe that's not the right. And I think like later on they have a straight up like, you know, like argument between like their polar opposite, which is the Black Templars.
Yeah. Sure, right over there in book 12.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's so hard keeping the narrative straight.
But yeah, and I think that's why they chose like the Iron Warriors specifically for this, because it's like if they had run into a bunch of Plague Marines, this was not, exactly, like this was not gonna happen. You know what I mean? But these were like the least like corrupted of the chaos of the Chaos Space Marines. But there were always those hints and those situations where it was like, where it's like, yeah, it seems like they had no other choice but to do this, but there was always a choice. You know what I mean? And I think that's why like his I can't remember the guy's name.
Zebran?
But no, Zebran, the guy who was
Arcos?
with Zebran, he kept being like, you had a choice and you made the wrong one.
Yeah.
Like over and over again, it's like you had the choice again and you made the wrong one. And you had the choice again, but you made the wrong one. And I think that's what it comes down to, where it's like you look at it and from a certain perspective, you're like, well, we just didn't have a choice. This is what we had to do to protect what we have and to protect ourselves. And then it's like, you had a choice, but you made the wrong one. And that's what it, you know, when it comes down to, it's like you could make the hard choice. This was the choice that seemed right because it was the most convenient for the situation. And that's how the Iron Warriors are always about, where they're like, this is the most convenient thing, where it's like, I'm going to cut off this mutation and I'm just going to put a metal thing in there because that's very convenient for me to keep going, but, you know, keep going. It's like their whole point is like to keep going. And I think the counterpoint to that was, you know, where these other non-heretical Space Marines who had this situation where it's like, you're fighting for humanity and it oftentimes requires you to make these sacrifices. Like with Vulcan, like he was in that situation where it's like, Vulcan probably could have been like, all right, bros, you throw yourselves at this beast guy and I'm going to make a run for it because I don't want to die. But instead he was like, all right, you guys go. I'm going to hold him back as long as possible so that there's a hope for the future.
See you in 10,000 years.
Yeah, see you in 10,000 years. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, I think that goes to show you the kind of thing that it's like, this is what's called for if you're really supposedly, taking on the mantle of the protectors of humanity, is that you make the hard choices, you make the hard sacrifices. You don't just sit back and go, I'm just gonna let this happen. I think that's also the situation. Like, you see that often, like with Inquisition, where they're like, well, we just do what needs to be done, and then it's then why do like a third of you guys always turn to chaos? You know what I mean? Like it's like, it's because you're making these choices that you think you you have no choice but to make, and it's like you had the choice, made the wrong one. In a lot of ways,
like Zurbrand is like, I mean, he's making very practical decisions, and honestly, like, I mean, it seems like it makes sense, like it really does, and I don't know that it's necessarily in like a intentionally misleading kind of way. I think, like, in a lot of ways, is like, the imperial truth. I'm sorry, the imperial dogma is bullshit. Like, and and that was kind of it. Like, the first decision that kind of led them down this path was like, do we exterminate this planet or not? Like, and they decided, no.
Yeah, but then he also made that call where he was like, if you guys could just blow up that Thunderhawk, even though it's got our bros on it, because they're going to tell you something that I'm not comfortable with. Yeah. Where he was like, those were the decisions. I don't think, like, some of the other ones that he made, like, he was left with like very little choice once he chose to go down this path. But there were those other choices, like when he decided to blow up the Thunderhawk, where you had a choice to make the right call, and because of the situation that you felt you were in, you made the wrong one.
I don't know. I mean, that's Arco's like perspective, and I think, like, there was the librarian had a different perspective. Well, the librarian was kind of more even keel.
Yeah, he was
kind of in between,
doing whatever,
almost not partisan, but he kind of was leaning towards his boss, or maybe he was just a good lapdog. I don't know. In Terminator armor. But I think, like, what was the hard choice, what was not. Like right off the beginning, at the very beginning, when he made that decision to not exterminate the planet, but instead kill off the stormtroopers and everything. It was like, I mean, that's a pretty hard pill to swallow, but, he was also looking at, like, do we kill off all these people? Do we destroy this planet like they wanted to? And so I think that, like, he also knew that, like, that was his death warrant, too. Like, from the very beginning, is like, I will never be able to go back to my life.
No, I think he knew he could go back. He was just going to keep covering it up.
Because that was the thing. He kept
that was
hoping
part of
that
the
he was going to
dialogue,
come back.
because I think that, like, Calcador or whatever was like, did you do this? Or maybe it was Arcos was like, did you do this? And that's it. But I think, like, I think in a way you're right.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of was under the illusion. He was kind of trying to convince himself, like, oh no, I can convince him, just like he later on tried to convince. But I think there was that duality. So we, as the reader, knew, like, that was it, and because that was the dialogue or the foreshadowing. But
and that's the thing, is, like, I think in his mind, he was doing what he had to do. And he was like, no one can hold it against me. I'm just doing what I need to do. And this is the right call because I'm doing what I need to do. And each of those situations, when it was, like, presented from the other side, where it's like, no, you made the call to do this, and you weren't forced to call on our ship to shoot that Thunderhawk. Like, you weren't forced. Like, your hand wasn't like, there was no other option. Like, you had other options, but you chose this one. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, like, later when it comes down to it, and it comes to a head, like, he's having such a hard time coming to the grips with the fact that they just don't understand. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, there's a reason that, you made those calls. You know what I mean? And that's what I think it comes down to. So yeah. But yeah.
I just want the Space Marines and Iron Warriors to get along.
I mean,
It's my inner
at
hippie.
this point, it's been 2,000 years. Can't we let bygones be bygones?
Speaking of getting along, Smash Cup to Luna, the Terran moon. We're now Chapter Master Thane of the Imperial Fists. Meets with Kubrick. He meets with Vangorich and a couple others. I think the Sister of Silence leader as well.
Plotting.
To be like, hey, so all the Imperial Fists are dead, but also we have a full chapter here of Imperial Fists. Don't ask why. One of my favorite lines in the book, again, is when Thane says, I do not intend to make the loss of the Imperial Fist public. As you observe, the morale of the people and their leaders is fragile. We don't want panic. And Kubik, the head of the Mars, is there would be no panic on Mars.
And
he's just like,
that's cool, man.
Like, and
like, panic does not compute.
I think really in these last two books, I really enjoyed Kubik as a character way more than the first 9 because of just little shit like that.
Yeah, he was a twirly bad guy back in the day. Now he's he's a little bit more practical.
And then so they show Thane shows off. Kind of they have a few more orc psyker bombs.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big fan of the fact they went, oh yeah, by the way, we captured 2 more as well. It was Death Watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess after you've seen 3 rescued, there's no real need narratively to show us to do it. And
book 13, the
further adventures,
the Gathering,
supplement.
So Thane lets the High Lords know, is like, okay, I'm not asking. Vulcan tried politics. Koorland tried politics. I'm taking all of our ships and troops. We're going. And when he says all, he's pulling everything to Terra. And he's like, but we don't have that time. We don't have, like orcs could attack any day. And I was like, okay, but the last 2 didn't work, so let's just do this. And he kind of gives Cubic and Vangorich the heads up that he's going to do this. And this is when he shows up in the middle of a parade, I believe, on Terra, where a full chapter of Space Marines appears out of the ground.
Yep.
And kind of this is when the new Imperial Fist instead of Imperial Fist Classic kind of comes rising out, and all the High Lords are like, oh shit, why are there 1,000 Space Marines on Terra?
And they're yellow. Oh boy!
Wait, weren't they all dead? Oh no, this is no good.
Why were they down there? No one told us about the sub basement.
and this is when Thane goes up to the kind of the podium, and he doesn't even ask the High Lords. He's just like, oh, by the way, people of Earth, we're gonna win. This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
Here's
yeah,
Yeah. Here I'm going to behead this proxy orc.
Yeah. Sup, guys? Imperial Fist here. We're gonna go take this to the orcs. Woo!
Yeah. What's it?
So, but yeah, it was kind of one of those situations where the High Lords came to this, like there was like a presentation or something that's supposed to be going on, and then all of a sudden like the ground underneath this whole crowd of people literally starts splitting, and the people are like running to get out of the way of the ground like splitting. It was like slow. It wasn't like it wasn't like a devastation move. Yeah, people weren't like falling in.
During that entire scene, like I kept like thinking, like, oh my god, what about the OSHA regulations? Where are the handrails? Like, this is not ADA compliant.
Exactly.
What the fuck?
Exactly. This was definitely like Death Star esque like safety for the people there.
I did forget a super cool scene where like he tells Vangorich and he tells Cubic so he can get other High Lords on board so they can just straight up do it. And there's a scene with Vangorich in an alleyway. With a couple of the High Lords,
right.
Yeah,
Eckhart and
dude, it was
oh yes,
it was Lansing for sure, and it was
or Vessering,
Vessering,
because there's a triad of those guys.
Yeah,
I think like Eckhart is kind of like the lesser of the triad.
And it was like they were like so. Vangorich pretty much says, "Hey, you need to do this, otherwise it's going to be very bad news for you." Yeah. And they're like, "What are you gonna do? Kill us?" It'd be like super obvious.
And there's a whole bunch of like the stormtroopers around.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
All like there's an entourage of stormtroopers like following the 2 High Lords, right?
Yeah.
So they're loaded, they're gunned up.
Yeah. Sadly, though, 2 of those stormtroopers are camouflage Calidus assassins who murder all the other stormtroopers.
Yep.
So like, oh shit, don't kill us.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it would be so. I need you to agree. I'm like, we're not going to agree. And that's when he kind of clicks his fingers, and the 2 Calidus assassins turn into like exact copies of the High Lords.
Yep.
And he's like, you can say yes, or I will just replace you.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was super super cool. Because wasn't this the same scene like where they where they thought they were going to kill Vangorich?
Yeah.
Where they thought they had set it up to like kill Vangorich, and then Vangorich walks up and he's like, "Sup, dogs, this is what you're going to do." And they're like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, really? Because now all your guys are dead. And also these last 2 here, they're now you."
Although, in his defense, the High Lord shot first.
It's true. But certainly in the remastered version, he did.
Thank you, George Lucas.
I mean, he Vangorich's last words to them was, "My operatives are everyone and everywhere. Each is ready to take your worthless lives and replace you at a moment's notice. So tell me, my lords, do we have an accord?"
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I guess we do. Yeah.
I like that guy.
When you put it that way. Yeah. But so all of a sudden there's like this new unveiling. It's like, we've got new Imperial Fist, better than the previous ones, because they're not dead.
with 2 wounds.
Yeah.
And a 30-inch bolter.
But yeah, so they come out and they're like, yeah, and by the way, we're now going to go kick the beast's ass, and we're going to take everything with us. I don't care what you're saying. This is what's going on. And then like the High Lords are like, ugh, and then leave.
So
they're angry.
they have 3 High Lords on board. They have 2 who are being bribed. A couple of others who I think are like under fear of death.
Yeah.
So yeah, they kind of
It's a pretty ineffective like High Lords of Terra.
A couple High
situation
Lords
here.
that really just don't have a voice.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you guys want. I like power.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they send out all the Imperial Fists, and this is when kind of Thane gets his no fucks nickname. So they decide, and at this point, I feel the Imperial Fists are going to be the best armored chapter of any Space Marine because they get all this cool new gear from Mars,
That's right.
and you're like, come on through. Their plan is batshit insane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, seriously.
So before in the last books, like in the last 2 times they tried to attack Eleanor, they could never get through kind of the air defense and the kind of the space battles and everything. So their plan is to hollow out a giant asteroid,
Multiple giant asteroids.
fill it with 1,000 Space Marines. And,
Yep.
and as an
sounds
Imperial
good.
Fist player, whenever you're like, yeah, we're going to put our entire chapter in one location, I'm like, no! Learn!
You fools!
So
Did you not read the first book?
So they hollow out an asteroid, put an entire Space Marine chapter in there, some Sisters of Sound, some other guys, and then they use Mars is a few of the bomb orcs.
Yeah, basically a battle burrito, if you will.
Yeah, they use
The 20 layer.
They use the Mars technology that they got from the attack moon to teleport and catapult other asteroids at Eleanor and
Yeah.
just launch them at the planet
This is like
one
the most
after the
orky
other.
technique.
Seriously.
I know. I was like,
we
this
just
is
read
reading.
about
Yeah.
Armageddon.
Exactly, and it in my mind it looked like the exact way that the attack moons attacked all these other planets,
Yeah.
where they just like heaved a bunch of asteroids that then broke open and spilled out orcs.
Yeah.
You know, now it was
They're
like
using the orc technology.
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
orc,
Yeah.
strategy.
exactly to attack the orcs. You know,
So they get to the planet surface in the most insane way. Like they're like they land, everything's broken. Like half of their armor's fucked up. Like, oh man, this was a really bad idea.
Yeah,
they say that where the asteroid hit the ground, it went through to the magma core, so they have to shoot out the roof of the asteroid to
Yeah.
fill the lava that had just appeared.
It was like insane. And then they had like all like these fleets were getting like shot up because like the orcs were like, all right, we're just gonna like pull all of our spaceships to this one place and we're gonna shoot you as you come closer.
Yeah.
You know, which is what they were doing. So like the fleets are getting massacred up in space. Like these guys are limping along because they just got like hurled across space at a planet.
Yeah.
You know?
But so they see like these millions of orcs just walking up back to the rocks. I'm like, oh, there's.
And mind you, like the landing killed a whole bunch of Marines
Yes.
too. Like
Oh,
it
yes.
was not
Oh
without.
no!
casualties.
Yeah.
The landing
yeah.
killed 3 Marines. It specifically said
I think,
3.
oh, in that one.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they called out to see like, all right, do a head check.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think like they lost a ton of others through other rocks.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Just,
the other rocks had like were worse off than the
Yeah.
one that
okay,
Thane
because
got.
it said they lost 3 Marines and 22 were injured.
In Thane's, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Thane's rock.
Yeah.
So then all of the orcs kind of gather together and then go to attack them again, and that's when they pull out kind of the psychic orc again.
Yeah.
And they blow up millions of heads very easily. This is the 5th time they've done it. They're very efficient
Yeah,
at it so far.
they're good at it at this point. Yeah,
Like,
But what I really like
Stampas that just like
is the description told them that they made a bloody red circle in the ground like a bullseye for the orbital reinforcements. So like Thunderhawks came down, landing Land Raiders and everything, and it was just like, oh, you made a red landing zone.
Yeah.
That's super nice. Oh, and they did say that Stompas and Gargants, because all of the heads exploded of the guys inside, they couldn't actually stay upright anymore, so they were falling
Yeah.
over.
yeah,
They didn't have the orc juju.
Yeah.
Float.
yeah. They
Believe in
weren't
it.
supposed to be standing, so the things believing they should stand were dead. They just fell over.
So yeah, it was chaos and carnage everywhere.
Yeah.
And so now the third war for Eleanor is kind of a go. They form up as essentially an entire chapter and kind of walk forward. I enjoy
If we
that.
fail, try it again. If we fail again, try it again.
Yeah,
I enjoy that they started pulling more of the model range in this book. To be fair, like Centurion
Yeah.
battle suits out in front.
Yeah.
That was nuts. I was really surprised because I
Yeah.
thought it was like a new rediscovery or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah.
like, well,
Well, they can lose it for like 8,000 years and it's still a new
yeah. There's
rediscovery.
8,000 years to lose.
yeah. The same with like killing orcs using psychers.
Yeah.
Technology.
The Imperial Fist get bogged down, so that's when they decide it's a great idea to call the Phalanx, which is in orbit, and have them orbital strike the ground.
Yeah,
Super effective. It does blind a bunch of them and kind of blow up like half the defense wall.
Yeah.
And drop them in orc shitty sewers.
yeah. like literally fell through the ground into orc sewers.
Yeah. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But
I think like this book is like suddenly de-weapons. Yeah. I think it's like really, because I think like each time it's like, oh shit, it's a ton of orcs, we're about to die. Oh, okay, the psyker died. Oh shit, a whole bunch of orcs, we're about to die in a trap. Oh, orbital strike.
Orbital bombardment. Yeah. So like half at this point, like half the chapter is now like in the sewers. The other half is up on the ground surface, looking down, being like, what do you want us to do down? We can't get down to you. You're down in a big hole.
Would you like a space ladder?
Yeah. I will say, at this point,
we remembered space ladders.
At this point, Thane is tooled up like my new chapter master will be tooled up. He has 2 power fists and a cyclone missile rack.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
And I was like, that is a sweet look. I have a sticky note on this page. Why you shouldn't stand in front of a lance strike. It describes a pauldron of his suit had been stoven by a fallen rock. His helm was cracked, including shattered lance. Hydraulic of his legs sparked with damage. He limped about. Like his lenses didn't work, so he couldn't see anyone anywhere. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad you find that secret road that way, but you're kind of screwed over.
Which seems like the first thing to go anyway on your Terminator armor. I think that's what Koorland had the same problem with his eye lenses and face.
Yeah.
That's why you see so many helmetless Marines.
Yeah, they're like, fuck it, it's just going to happen.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Most of our battles just end up starting like after their first battle when the lenses went, so they had to take off their helmets. There we go. Oh my God, we've just solved a giant mystery of the 41st millennium. Why no helmets?
The real reason all my iron hands have no helmets.
So they ride the shitter tube into the center of the palace. And they come face to face with the beastliest beast, the biggest boss. Yeah, I think it's implied it's a Goth.
I think they said they had a bunch of checks, right?
Yeah. And Thane says, "Fight me, monster! Fight me for Eleanor, for Terra, for the galaxy." And I'm like, he murdered a Primarch in the last chapter, Master. Maybe not challenge him to single combat.
Yeah, when are you guys going to learn not to call these guys out? They're pretty good at killing Space Marines. They have preferred enemy at this point.
So we get a short battle, and go for the neck. But I just took my helmet off.
But yeah, his
Mark 8 armor didn't come out for a while.
His Terminator armor gets fucked up. Everything getting those. Like he's like laying about to be murdered again, and he looks over and he sees Lady Brazanus, which is kind of the lead sister of Silence. And she is entangled with the orc, the weird boy, the orc bomb.
Kind of a slave Leia kind
of
thing.
So she can't get away from him. It happened kind of during the confusion. And so she kind of silently nods, and my note here says Seppukai, because she just kind of kills herself. And as soon as she dies, that orc goes off. And now, I try to be a positive person. No. I mean, I like this book series.
Okay.
But so we have 11 books of build-up, and the mightiest war boss in the galaxy dies in 9 pages.
Yeah, and most of it's just like beating up Thane.
And most of it's beating up Thane. Most of it, and it's it's ended because one sister killed herself. I mean, I like the idea of the bomb.
Which is weird because, like, I mean, if you think about the last orc, so, like, this is supposed to be, like, the head orc. Like, this is the boss of the bosses. And, yeah, he dies because she, like, gutted herself. Whereas the previous one didn't die from, like, this
being
orc
gutted.
Bomb going off. So, really, he was a little bit more of a hardy orc than
well, I think
one.
they said that the psyker was, like, a bigger psyker, so that might have had something to do with it. But, like... I mean, obviously, it's all narrative choices and everything, but you've already brought Centurions into it. You already brought Assault Centurions with, like, Rock Grinders and Drills. Yeah. Just show how powerful that orc is. Have, like a bunch of Marines, like, wear him down. Like, I punched through his leg with, like, an Assault Drill, and then, like, he murdered 17 Centurions. Yeah. But just having, like I said... The climax of The Beast Arises should have been the beast falling. And unfortunately it happens in book 11 and in kind of a short order.
Yeah. But I think like that was, I think for the last portion, like there was more like the bookkeeping, and I think like at this point, like we did see the in a way like the climax in book 10. Yeah. And then we see like it was a book, and there was like bookkeeping battle, and I guess like if we already saw that battle, why do we need to see it again? Yeah. But maybe they could have swapped it up to where like this battle was a little bit more climactic and the other one wasn't. So,
but I mean, before we go on,
and it's actually a thinner book too. I believe 11 is a little bit thinner than most of the others.
It's a little skinnier. But let's. I mean, we'll go over book 12 here real quick, and then we can kind of go over everything and kind of our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I mean, my first two sticky notes from 12 are politics and Star Wars. This is how democracy dies.
So yeah, most of this is like there's hardly any action really.
Yeah. No, it's Vangorich consolidating power.
Yeah,
in the vacuum of the beast.
Is this more? Does this start with Thane like riding back on the phalanx and then like calling all of the High Lords like up onto the phalanx to talk to him and being like, "Yo, bros, this is the way."
No,
it's
it starts with a parade.
Yeah,
with him riding on a Dorn's
They
fist.
have that fake orc, the big
oh
orc.
yes.
Decapitating.
Oh, that's right.
And Vangorich lets they know, hey, we needed to have it to be this orc. If the orc was too big, people would be scared. If it was too small, they would think we're ineffective. So here's an orc.
Right.
Yeah,
it's not the beast.
The perfect sized orc.
Here's a knob.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get this great scene of like everyone celebrating, and again, it just kind of goes to show kind of the Vangorich character of still the danger's gone. Like, they're mopping up orcs now.
Yeah.
But he's still manipulating the situation.
Yeah. But I think that, personally, I think he had a valid point that the danger is the High Lords. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think like this is, it's kind of him like coming to realization as like initially, I think like it was like talking to Thane and everybody's like, all right. So, he almost like is kind of like, he never really comes out and says anything. Like, he's worse than I am when it comes to telling stories. Like, let me tell you about my childhood. Like, through that. Like, well, here's this other allegory. But, he kind of, like, I think he comes out and is kind of asking Thane, like, do I have permission to kill everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Thane doesn't really say no. But, I mean, before that, we go back to the best buddy cop drama of the 32nd millennium. It's the Calcator and... Zerberin with at this point they're just playing the like the you have two choices, A or B game.
Oh yeah.
It's like a telltale game at this point. Your choices may affect the story outcome. Where they land on this world and the people are like, hey, thank God you came. We've been holding off orcs for years or like for forever now.
Yeah.
And I love there's a quote here. And he's like, they ask, why were we left to fight alone? Not a single one of our requests for aid went answered. And Zerberin says, the galaxy burns, your world is one of 1,000 assailed. And I was like, oh, that's a little uncaring.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's your Iron Warrior coming through there, bro.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he still was like super proud of the guy. And he was like, wow, it's really awesome. I've been fighting for a long time. And, you guys actually didn't run away or turn coward or become like a dig a knob. But then Calcator, our Iron Warrior, Ironsmith, comes down, and he was like, yeah, I'll need all of your food, water, ammo, and also 100 children.
Yeah, and your children.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what?
We can't afford any of that.
Yeah, and they're like, no, you're going to, otherwise we're going to murder you all. And, thanks.
Yeah. You have a choice. It's like you either give us your food and water and your children, or you all die. And he's like, we will all die if you take all of those things.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you can still live till tomorrow, or you can die right now. So it's your choice.
And this is when Calcator kind of talks to Zerberin, and he's like, it says he calls him brother, but it's not ironically anymore.
Yeah.
And he explains what he's doing. He's like, okay, so I lost 2 planets of this. I need another one. Mm-hmm. He was like, I need to be restocked with people, so we're going to take some people. And I was like, and honestly, the ones that survive here with how we leave them, they'll be really good stock in 50 years, so we'll come back and get more people. So kind of like you said, kind of like fulfilling things so they can continue to survive in the way that they know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way that's like real shitty.
Yeah. But then Zerberin like ends up convincing him, sort of, I guess, like putting the nugget in his head, and then like I think Calcator kind of like sees it and kind of walks through it in his own right. So he's like, okay, well maybe that's dumb. Yeah, we should just like farm this planet and so on. Sorry, I was just looking at something else and realized you guys just said that.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's all good.
Then it says as well, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about Zerberin just falling and kind of not realizing it. Like he realizes here that he saw the Iron Warrior or Thunderhawk fly off, and that ship was outnumbered 4-1 by Fist Exemplar ships and people, and they could easily kill them and finish them, and then that be done with it, and they would save this population, and he chooses not to. He says here,
even in like the big fleet and stuff, like all of the guys on like the Iron Warrior ships were like, "Are you like you sure we shouldn't like? Cause we're gonna be killed if we don't do anything about these the Fifth Exemplar. Like they could like kill us at any time." You know, and Calcator's like, no, it's cool, I got this, and it's like he did have it. You know, he had totally like gotten Zurbrand to like just
and it said here
think that like, he had no choice in the matter. You know,
it says here the Fifth Exemplar required supplies and recruits. So what kind of Space Marine chapter in the middle of a war against the Beast are you like, yeah, let's raid this world for some recruiting, get that process going again?
Yeah.
I think, but that goes back to like their first contact. I think like in a way like we already saw those seeds of truth like show up like dude, we're done, like we can't go back to the Imperium. So I think like now they know in some ways, like I think there is that duality. Like, on one hand I think he has that hope of like maybe we could just show the rest of the Imperium that, you know, like we can work with these guys. And then like of course there is that like, you know, the realist in them that's just like, all right, well we're kind of on our own, like let's go ahead and do this.
And I think that kind of like that mentality is what makes him think that he has no choice. You know what I mean? It's like that's almost like his mental like self-protective situation where he's like, you know, because like the loyal Space Marine part of him could never make those choices if he ever felt he had a choice. You know what I mean? So his like his mental psyche like defends itself by saying you didn't have a choice. Whether he had the choice or not is irrelevant at that point. He's making that choice thinking he has no choice, quote unquote. You know what I mean? And I think that's like his own mental defenses at that point taking over and being like, you know, the true loyalist would never make that choice if they had a choice. But he feels at that point that he has no choice. You know, and whether or not he has the choice or not, the fact that he feels he has no choice is why he makes that decision. You know?
So while this is happening, Vangorich has politicked his way into something else happening. Thane is named, was it the Lord or Commander Guilliman?
Lord Guilliman.
Lord Guilliman of the Imperium, which means he is over all of the High Lords, and he can just, this is what the fuck I'm doing. And he summons all of them. I'm sorry,
And I think like Vangorich is, but I think like as this is going on, I think like at what point does he's trying to get not Veralt or
Veredis.
Veredis. So he's trying to get him involved. He's trying to get him to take over like the High Lords. And he's like, whoa, nope, not interested.
Yeah. So I mean, in this, and then he has a conversation with Veredis and Wynand, and be like, okay, what do you think he's wanting to talk to us about? What's going to happen? And then
they're
like
both terrified of Vangorich.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, well, there's gas. Oh, never mind, it's gone now." And then there's like, "Is there poison?" He's like, "Nope, there's no poison."
He hands them wine, and like Veredis is the only one that doesn't take it. Wine is like, "I don't want to, but it's politically savvy to do so." She does. So her and Vangorich like partake, but Veredis doesn't. So that gas, like, there's a gas leak.
But it goes away super quickly. No one worries about it.
Okay. But I mean, everything's broken in the Imperium, so it's no big deal.
I love the descriptions of kind of the inside of the phalanx and how it's like it just seems like an art gallery and stuff at times.
I walked for like 3 hours through this thing after they landed
through the phalanx.
Just to get to Thane, who didn't bother to meet him halfway or anything. He's just like, I'm in my study, hanging out, looking at.
I love that there was 15 guys armed and armored in a dark yellow carpets. There were warrior serfs. I love that imagery, and I'm like, God damn! Now I need to get some guardsmen and have like these just be warrior serfs. I love that idea of just being there. So he meets with each of he meets with all of the High Lords as one first, and he's like, "Hey guys, you guys really fucked up. You did a really shitty job. You got a bunch of people killed. You know, he kind of dressed everyone down, apart from Kubik. The Archmagus of Mars, because he kind of needs all of his stuff. So he's like,
I think like in a way, like at this point, wasn't Kubrick kind of like kissing his ass?
He'd
been on it for the last like book. Just yes, we're gonna do what you want. And he even like, I think he even changed his vocal record, right, to like be a more subservient voice. Normally it's just like the grating.
And I think that kind of goes, you know, where it's like, you know, what seems logical at any point in time, where it's like, you know, in the beginning when he's looking at that and he's like, you know, Terra it's not logical to throw our eggs in the Terra's basket, so we're going to try to make a way so we can take Mars away from here and not have to deal with the orcs that are coming. You know what I mean? And it's like each of the different steps, and when all of a sudden he sees the situation where he's like, where once it's like comes to a head where that plan's not going to work anymore, he's like, all right, well, what's the logical next step for helping Mars? I'm going to jump on the side of the Space Marines because these guys are big, strong, and they look like they can kick some ass.
So
I'm sorry, and it's at this point that Thane is like, okay, so I'm going to go mop up all the shitty orcs. I'm taking my entire chapter with me. There's going to be no Imperial Fists on Terra. And they're like, but I'm like, nope, fuck you. You guys had a chance.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
We're crusading. See ya.
While I'm gone, Vangorich, he's going to rule in my place.
Yeah, he's in charge.
And Vangorich is like, oh, wait, no shit, I wanted to rule from the shadows. But while I'm here,
Yeah.
he kind of sets in motion insanity,
Yes.
to say a better word.
well, not at first. It takes about 180 years. But
No. At the start, he murders all the High Lords.
Yeah.
I don't think that was insanity. I think that was necessary. But
So the first High Lord that gets hit is
so also what's going on is they're supposed to, one of the directives is, so I think like they're supposed to, I think Thane is like, all right, we're going to what is he going to do? We're going to recreate a fourth founding.
Yeah.
We're going to open up the chambers for complete democracy and transparency. So no more like discussions in private.
I loved how one guy was like, yeah, we just did that when this happened. And he was like, yeah, that was 700 years ago. Get with the program.
Yeah.
And what was the third thing?
They were to rebuild the fleet and the orbital defenses and stuff like that.
Okay, and one of those things I think before that is they're supposed to destroy Eleanor, but that wasn't part of the three.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So Kubrick is supposed to go and destroy, like the Mechanicum is supposed to destroy the planet, and we see through Vangorich's legion of assassins that's not what's happening. They decided to teleport it instead.
Yeah. So and then spoilers, Ted. I don't know if you know this. But
sorry, I wasn't at the last episode.
That was the jerky,
and I often don't read.
So Kubik's like,
Ted didn't hear our last episode.
Kubik's like,
so
yep, I will destroy that planet right away. Yep, gonna go do that. And he goes and he teleports it, and he switches locations with a planet, and then they rename it Armageddon.
Yeah. So it blows up. They blow up that one.
Book, but I think like later on, I think it's in the.
It's according to White Dwarf.
Yeah,
right,
White Dwarf.
Right.
But yeah, they transported Eleanor and switched its place with another planet that they then blew up. So to show, in an instant, to show the Imperium that yes, we did blow up Eleanor, because you see that planet that just exploded. Sure, that was it. I promise. Like, take our word for it. That was totally Eleanor.
Yeah.
And so this gets back to when this gets back to Vangorich, he's like, oh fuck, okay. Let's just murder everyone and do this myself. That seems easy at this point. So
that was a tipping point. I think at that point, that was like, okay, these guys.
That was a tipping point for him. So Veristus, the Inquisitor, and I loved this. What he had done with him was the gas that was released in the air was harmless unless it was mixed with the air coming out of Veristus's life support system. And then what that did is, instead of like, all the High Lords are like thousands of years old, and they have like this youth stuff to keep them young and virile, and like Viagra for High Lords.
Yes.
But this turned it off.
Geno something or other.
Yeah.
Simpson or something, because it shows up later on.
Yeah.
But what this drug did was, this poison did was, it meant the cells weren't being kind of rejuvenated; they were being attacked. So he just aged
like super fast.
And then he was like, okay, things I'm not really super fond of, but when he's dying, he's like, Wynand, I'm dying, but before I die, the Grey Knights are in Thane. Here, take this key. You're going to need that. Also, please split the Inquisition into 2 separate parts. And kind of like the reorganization of that between the Order Xenos and the Order Malus. And so like, he's like, I want this to happen. And then he's gone. There is a brutal one. Why am I looking at my phone? It's in the damn book. My sticky note here says terrifying. It's the navigator guy.
Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah, because they go through this like series of all of the High Lords getting killed in different ways.
It's like Godfather, like when the dude's in the church and everyone's behind him. But okay, so
I always forget the navigator's name. What is it?
It was
not the navigator.
Anwar.
Navigator.
Oh yes.
And then there's the telepath.
Yeah,
the telepath.
Which one is which one's the eyeless one?
The Anwar, the navigator.
Okay, yeah. That one was crazy because I actually Anwar has never really been like a major character.
No.
It was just kind of like there.
The telepath was the one, because the navigator.
The
navigator can still see. It was the telepath one that was blind.
Oh
the telepath. So, but that one, or the astropath.
Yeah, astropath. I'm sorry, astropath. Yes,
but I think it was Anwar still, right?
Yeah.
So, but like Anwar's never been a major character. Like it was always kind of like Anwar was just kind of like on the side. But I think like Anwar was also probably like the most pious and like the better of all of them. Like, it was probably like the least corrupted, and like the whole sin. Like, I think he's like, no, he's not flagellating himself, is he? No, he is.
Yeah, he was flagellating himself for failing in his duty,
right? Which was to speak up and stop it all. Like, he felt that it was his job to like to stop the whole bullshit of the the High Lords, which is not exactly an astropath's like dictum.
It's like not in the job description of an astropath.
No, so like I mean, I thought that was cool. It's probably like I was probably the best character, like the most like pious.
It was the saddest one because he sent a Calexis assassin after him.
Yeah,
and it describes here that like just all he could see in his spirit sight was just a beam of blackness coming towards him and connecting with his forehead and kind of swallowing his vision.
Yeah, because he could see, he was blind, but he technically could see by the psychic vibrations or whatever.
It was the spiritual resonance and everything.
Yeah,
so you'd see somebody's soul, and so you'd see like the different like parts of their aura. Like, it's your aura, man.
Yeah.
But like even inanimate things had like a little bit of residue of a spirit.
Yeah.
And so so you would kind of see like the door and everything sort of, but then like this thing comes in and blots it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
He felt nothing but pain as his soul was pulled away from his body, singing like a raw, stretched nerve. With his mouth and with his mind, Anwar screamed. His last psychic shout blasted out from the chapel, stunning everyone it touched for 500 meters in every direction. And then it said, his soul dissipated into nothing. The Calexis shut off her animus speculum. Anwar's body fell to the ground alive. But Anwar had found a fate far worse than death. By the time his aides and guards reached the chapel, the assassin had gone. She had another psyker to go see.
Yeah.
So he was left alive, but removed from the warp, his soul taken away, just a shell of a person. I'm like, that's so...
His body was alive, but that was it. Yeah. It was
that's so unnecessary.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But the only way you could do it, because like part of the astropath thing is that you see all and know all, basically. I mean, in a lot of ways. So you can't send a normal assassin after it because you're going to know.
Yeah. and then Vangorich starts like manipulating other things. Like he gets like the son-in-law of the navigators guy,
right?
Yeah, because
to poison him.
I was just a jackass.
Yeah,
so
to poison him because he promised him like the new position. In that.
And he specifically said, "But you're not bred for Terran atmosphere. You'll die if you stay here and do this job that Vangorich is telling you to do." He's like, "Yeah, well, it looks like you're dying just now." So, and I'm like, oh, how much of a dick are you? Where that's your response?
Because he's like voidborn, so he's like designed for living in the void. But then he's
not perfectly, because he's still like somewhat Terran-ish.
Yeah, there was like all this stuff. So then he ends up killing his and then it appears to everyone else that it was just like a power struggle thing that had occurred as opposed to Vangorich actually taking him out. And then there was who was it?
What it says here was why he croaked, "Your strain is not even gravity adapted. Living here will kill you." And he said, "You are gravity adapted, but life here has still killed you."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh jeez,
burn.
Burn, sick burn,
sick burn, bro.
Oh, and then there was
the
chick who
suicide.
Tull, Tull, who started the proletariat.
That was one of the most brutal ones ever, because she had been like beating herself up over the proletariat campaign, crusade. Like since it happened, because she felt responsible for killing millions of people, which to be fair she was. But she was like beating herself up, and then she had this like loyal servant that was with her, like had always been with her and had been with her along this whole time. And then all of a sudden the loyal servant starts telling a story about how, basically telling the story of Subaku, where it was like, back in the day, if people felt like they had besmirched their honor, they would just kill themselves, and then they would make sure that they were, they would make sure that they had, that they saved their honor of their people and of their entire family by just killing themselves. And she's like, "Oh my God, maybe that's true." And then she looks down, and her father's las pistol's there,
and it's mysteriously fully charged.
I thought this thing had been died because it just had sat there. I've never had to use it. Yeah. Why is it fully charged? Oh, that's crazy. And then
she didn't even think much about it. I think she was so in the zone. She made a mental note of it. It's like, oh, that's funny. He always bought the best stuff, so maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why it's still charged.
Better go shoot myself.
Yeah.
And then you had Lansing, Veralt, and Eckhart.
Oh,
this is
man.
a silly battle.
They were like, okay, we got to meet up. I think they're like, we really think Vangorich is going to do something stupid, unaware that he is doing something stupid. And so Lansing and Veralt meet up, and they're like, oh, Eckhart's late. And Eckhart comes in, he's like, hey guys, sorry I'm late, and then shoots them. Shoots one of them, and he's like, what the hell are you doing? And then he's like, okay, I'm not going to hurt you. I just need you to sit on that chair right there. And so he sits in the chair, and he's like, he pulls out a gun. He's like, I thought you said you weren't going to hurt me. He's like, I said, think about it. And he murders him. So Veralt and Lansing look like they murdered each other.
Yep. And then the real, because it's not actually Eckhart. It's like a Calidus assassin, like looking like Eckhart. So then the plan I think was, did they already kill Eckhart, or the plan
They
was
never
that
actually
Eckhart,
talked about
yeah,
it.
they
They
never.
basically
It
did.
was
It's implied.
Was it okay? Because I
He
thought it
went-
was implied that Eckhart would find the two who had killed themselves.
He went to live
Well,
on the farm.
Yeah, later on, yeah, probably. We're gonna take the dog up to the
Yeah. Eckhart went to the farm and was replaced by an assassin. And then back to Jason Statham, Beast Cruel, who's sent after another cybernetically enhanced guy,
The
Zach.
Arbites guy, right?
Yeah, the Arbites guy.
Turns out to be a badass.
Who they have a really badass fight with a
Yeah.
bike chase and like bombs and all kinds of stuff.
But I love at the beginning when with the place where Beast Crawl is like hiding is like underneath the rails of the subway system, where like as the trains would come over, like it would push down to like just within inches, like an inch of like of crushing him to death, because he had just like put like one brace there to keep it from like totally killing him, like right underneath these like, and he's just laying there for hours and hours and hours, just waiting for the moment to like do what he had to do. And I was like, that's pretty badass.
Covered in shit.
Yeah, exactly. And like nearly getting run over every time a train comes by. Yeah, it was.
It was kind of weird because like usually Beast Cruel is like I thought like a really amazing assassin. Like he came from the same school as Vangorich, so he's like although he wasn't. He kind of failed the Vangorich technique, which was like, he wasn't a poison based assassin. So like normally you kind of do it in like subversive or like subliminal ways, or just kind of like you let people kind of kill themselves in a way. But like so he sucks at it, apparently. Like, he plants a bomb in the car where Zek is supposed to be, and then it blows up. Or, I'm sorry, it's not a bomb. It's a gas bomb or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So this green gas comes out, and he's like, oh, that wasn't him.
That
And
was
then another
decoy
car
Zek.
runs off.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, so Cruel wasn't as good of a...
But when he finally gets them kind of pulled over and they're beating the crap out of each other because he's
They're
half
down in like the underhive
Yeah.
where no vehicles are.
Yeah, and Zach is like half robot as well, so they're like beating the shit out of each other. Cruel obviously kind of gets the final say, and Zach's like, "What are you doing? Can you not see what Vangorich is doing? I thought you were meant to protect." And he kind of talks Cruel into being like, "Yeah, actually, maybe killing all of the High Lords is a bad idea."
Which, while he was sitting there contemplating killing Zek, like he was actually going
Yes.
through the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So by the time like Zek shows up and is like, "What are you doing? He's just going to kill you." He like, I think he made a note. He's like, this,
You're
it's like
right.
you took
That's what I was
yeah.
saying.
He's like, you took the words out of my mind.
Did we just become best friends?
Get out of my brain, bro.
So yeah, he's like, you know what, Zach, you're absolutely right. But I'm gonna need to take something from you to prove to my boss that I killed him before I turned in him. He's like, oh, thank God, please. He's like
handing him his pocket watch.
Yeah, it's like, you're really not gonna like it. So then he cuts off his head and actually kills him. And then so that's the proof that he needs that he killed him. And then we go,
Which is weird because he's the only assassin that needed proof.
Yeah.
It seems.
Yeah, well, maybe because Vangorich doesn't trust Cruel, and that's what he came to. One of the best assassinations was for Kubik.
Oh,
yeah,
man, that was cool.
I was waiting for this one.
Yeah.
Just the way it says, was it Tybalt the Abolite as an adversary assassin? It just describes him like waking up and like just going like full
mode.
angry beast mode. And
Well, there was the
murdering
one
people.
because there was the one
There's the gal that had
assassin.
been-
Yeah, the assassin that had been like infiltrating the Mars for like years. Isolde, yeah.
Yeah, she I think she showed up in an earlier book. So
Yeah, she was in a bunch of
it's been
early
a while.
books. Yeah,
so
she's been
since
in this
we've
for a
seen
long
her.
time, and she's like trying to make her way down to where this adversary assassin is, and it's like a comedy of errors, like all these things that keep like keeping her from getting where she needs to get. And then finally, like right as she's about
You
to
knew
do it,
she was gonna fuck up
like
the entire time.
like right as she's about to get to do it, all of a sudden they're just like, "Wait a minute, you're not supposed to be down here," and she's like,
God damn
it. Yeah, and like just manages like to breach the seal of the adversary assassin's like isolation chamber, and he wakes up and he's like, kill.
But
And then he
Kubik's a
does
smart guy. Kubik is a very smart guy. He has a contingency plan for this. He has one room that's very isolated from everyone with only one way in or out.
Well, no. First, they're trying to get him out.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
So they're trying to get him out of the because suddenly there's an adversary assassin just going nuts in there. They're like, we need to get him out. So they all take him out. There's like all these battle servitors all around him,
And
like all these Skitarii, and they going down the stairs towards the cars. And all of a sudden, their heads start exploding, and then they realize that, oh shit, there's a bunch of Vindicare assassins just like picking them off from from up in the up on the
he
rooftop.
was super pissed at Kubik.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're just like, they're just like taking out all of these like battle servitors, and so he runs back into the throne room, or into like the whatever their headquarters was, and he jumps on this like fast train that takes him to this one isolated like location that you spoke
I think it's
of.
kind of nuts because like as they're going off, like I think all the reports are coming into Kubrick, and he's just like, they're like, oh, there's 20 of them, oh, there's 8 of them, maybe there's 3 of them, we don't know, like, and, it seems like there's like a war zone. But if you remember, like Red Haven is only like 4 assassins.
Yeah, it was
so
like,
it's like
one from each temple.
Yeah, it was like that's all it is, and everybody's like, oh shit, it's an army.
Yeah,
and didn't one of them die? I think
yes,
one of them got
a long time ago.
So it was like one Vindicator, a Calidus, and an Eversur, and it just destroyed.
Sounds like the plot to a sitcom. 3 assassins and a baby.
So that's when Call. I was going to call him Call. Jesus Christ! Cubic goes up, and he's like, "Okay, I'm safe here. Let's do this." And then
he tries to plug into the system.
and it doesn't work. And then he turns around, and that's when when Vangorich is like, "Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
I came specially for you." And they have this kind of big, "Oh, I knew you, I'm special enough for you." And he's like, "Well, it was your moving the planet and not destroying it that really pissed me off and caused this whole thing to happen." I love the choice that he gives him. He's like, "Here's what you're going to do. I need you to remove your memory core. I'm going to replace it with someone else's and puppet you. If you don't do that, I have a virus in your Martian system, and I will delete a whole shitload of knowledge." So it's like, which one do you prefer?
Yeah.
And you'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either which way, you're gonna die. But this way, you can protect the gathered knowledge of Mars.
Precious knowledge.
Yeah.
So Kubrick, he's like, "Okay, fine, you win." And he kind of sacrifices himself for knowledge, it's the Martian way.
Which is also, like, I think at one point, like, it seems like he's about to, like, he has, like, 2 memory cores. Because I think he's, like, uploading himself to, like, the main system, to Hal.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave. And so he's, like, uploading, and I think, like, Vangorich turns around and sees a little eye orbit, like, in the computer, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
Unplug.
He also puts a small melta bomb in the computer to make sure.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't say about the Veritas, the Inquisitor, as he's dying, it is revealed that he's actually 1,500 years old.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also Carol Sinderman from the Horus Heresy books, which I thought was a good connection, but also it kind of makes things like Space Marines less special to me, because they install how they live for can live for hundreds of years, and I'm like, okay, this guy lived for 1,500 on very basic Terran drugs.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. No,
not basic. Yeah, but
that's the whole thing. Is that he was like super stock, because he was like the only one in the. And they kept talking about, they're like, he's just always been there. No one knows how long he's been around. He's kind of an old curmudgeon because he's been there for as long as anyone can remember. And it's like, because he's been there for a stupid amount of time.
Since the first hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, he was handpicked by the Sigillite.
Yep.
No, it's for real.
Yeah, no, I know. Seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
We laugh, but that's seriously what happened.
Yeah, so I think, like, but I did think that it was like, and I think maybe for like the same reason you were kind of put off by that. Like, I was kind of put off by it, but maybe a little bit different. Whereas, like, it definitely felt like, I mean, there was no climax to this whatsoever. Like, you're just going along and like, okay, here's this no name, like, whatever, so on, and then like through the last minutes, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm Sermon.
Suddenly Harlequins.
Yeah, and it didn't. It's like, huh, okay. Footnote. I mean, it didn't. There wasn't like any grandioseness to it. There wasn't anything. There was like the context was kind of like inconsequential.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't really feel too great. So actually, that's what I was talking about. Like when we were messaging earlier, I was like, I had to do some extracurricular reading to figure out like what's the big deal with all this. We'll get into that later.
I loved Vangorich's explanation of where all the High Lords went. He said the Telepathic and Astronomicon retired from public life. That would be the 2 whose souls got sucked out of their body by one of his assassins. They said Tull committed suicide. Very sad, which is technically true. Let me see. The Arbite, the Zeke guy, he's retired now, and he's gone to help reconstruct the Imperium.
Yeah.
He went to the Underhive.
They said that the Lansing and Veralt, they had a regular bookkeeping that he was already investigating. They just have happened to find out about it, and they ran away.
Yeah.
And then he introduced a bunch of new people, including a Custode, sitting on the council, which was kind of a big deal. Jeff.
Yeah.
Good old Jeff. Had nothing better to do. All the floors were sparkly clean. And then I got a very Revenge of the Sith vibe from this chapter of, where he's like, I announce, my new grand empire of the Republic is no more. Welcome to my galactic empire. Because also thunderous applause greeted the announcement.
Yeah. So Winan is one of the few people, like as we mentioned earlier, that stayed on board. So we have like 3 people I think that stayed on board. She's one of them, and I think like it was kind of an interesting like interplay that happened in kind of leading up to that, because like at one point Veritas dies, and she is pissed. Like I mean, granted this is the guy, and they kept like pushing this issue that like he tried to kill her, and yet she still feels like some sort of affinity for him. And so he dies, and she finds out, and now she's going over to kill Vangorich, goes over to like his usual safe spot with like a pistol drawn, and like Vangorich is trying to explain, and she's like not buying any of it, and she tries to plug him, and it's a hologram, so he was onto her at this point.
Yeah, and it was something Versus or Cinnamon said was better for him to rule for like 100 years than for there to be a vacuum.
Okay, so maybe that's right. So she talks to him. That's what happens. She goes to kill Vangorich, and then she goes and talks to him as he's in stasis. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he asked everybody, like, put me in stasis, and then until Winan shows up, and then I want to talk to her, and then that's it. I'm going to die. And so she does, and that's when he says that, basically, like, look, just go along with it. It's just for the best. Like, things are going to be shit otherwise. So she does. She's kind of begrudgingly like, fine.
Yeah. So Vangorich is Palpatine Terra. Smash cut to our Fist exemplars, our 240 people. Bohemond and the Black Templars have come to retrieve them. And this is, I think, the point where Zebrin is like, oh, fuck. And he's trying to still get out of it and kind of figure out a way that he can, it's cool. You guys just come with me on my ship. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Kalkator's like, he's going to kill us. He's going to kill us. And Zebrin's like, no. Trust me, I know this guy. It'll be fine. I can just
we'll
let me
talk
talk
to him. It's cool.
Just let me talk. Let me talk. You just keep your mouth shut. I will talk. Mm-hmm. And
yeah. So Bohemond said he was a traitor and he needed to die.
Yep.
They didn't raise shields in time, so they teleported over, and they had a kind of. In the best descriptor I can find is the Mace Windu Anakin Skywalker moral dilemma. Where your Mace Windu Bohemond is like, he's too dangerous to be left alive, you must kill him, and he's like, no, I promised him, he's the only one who can save my chapter. And this is kind of when Zebrin really falls. He kills Bohemond, and he destroys the Black Templar ship. One Fist Exemplar ship does not join with him and runs away.
The Arcos.
The Arcos, and he runs away. But so around 200 Fist Exemplars at this point fully turn and kind of, and this is what I really liked about it is they didn't turn to chaos. They just turned their back on the Imperium. It's the shades of gray,
right?
That I really like there. Mm-hmm. Arcos makes it all the way back to Thane and the new Imperial Fist. He says what happened. Mm-hmm. And Thane, like all of us, was like, the fuck did you let that happen for?
Yeah.
He was like, well, I was like, okay, you had multiple opportunities to stop this and you didn't.
He's like, well, let me just rebuild the chapter. We'll make our entire crusade. We're going to take down all the Fist Exemplars and we're going to right this wrong.
Yeah.
Because Thane, of course, is like a Fist Exemplar.
Yeah. He was the chapter master for the Fist Exemplars. And Thane's response is just, no, the chapter will be stricken from all records, which, by the way, called it.
Yeah.
Remember when I said that's why I wasn't painting a Fist Exemplar army, because they wouldn't exist by the end of the book series. And his job, he would be reassigned to the Imperial Fists, but his sole job would be to destroy every record of the Fist Exemplars.
He made it personal.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, that's the guy who was loyal to you. Jesus Christ.
But not loyal enough.
Not loyal enough.
Yep.
Now we kind of...
I mean, Thane's not the best judge of character, let's be honest. This is the man who put Vangorich in power, and we see what happened.
So now we get to the point where I feel the book should have ended. To me, the beheading was enough for an entire book. Mm-hmm. Instead, kind of our last...
So you think it should stop here or after this next part?
They should have stopped here right before the beheading, because it kind of cuts to...
Well, that was the beheading.
Yeah.
The beheading was the killing of all the...
Right. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So okay, what...
So now he's coming back 100 years later.
So the next chapter is just like 100 years later. And I feel it really rushes the Vangorich part. I really hope...
100 years later.
I really hope they go back, but Thane's like, oh, right, shit, I better go take care of that Vangorich thing. Mm-hmm. And he goes back, and it's... admittedly a lot of really cool bolter porn.
Yes.
Such good bolter
porn.
Like a veteran will like turn around and it was like, And like an Exodus round just right through the skull.
Yeah.
Guys dying left and right.
Basically, Terra has become like a dystopian of the dystopian future.
This place is just weird. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. There's all these dissenters are crucified on buildings, and like there's like half-built statues to Koorland and to Thane all over the place. Like, I mean, this place is weird. It's an acid trip. Like we just went into like the I don't know, the no man's zone.
Yeah, and there's like no people
it's
around.
like a chaos version of Terra.
And then, so they go upstairs to Vangorich's office, and Winan's sitting there. And it's like, oh yeah, by the way, the room's booby trapped, so when you leave, it's going to blow up, and I'm going to die. Also, he's at the Eversur Temple.
Yeah.
So
they've just gone through like Terra, and they've been going through here, just getting their butts kicked like by all these assassins, and they're like fighting their way there. And they get there, and then
it wasn't even a scrub marine at the start. It was a chapter master who turns a corner and gets one shot killed by an assassin.
That's right. Like I think he kind of said like Thane didn't want him to be the one. He was like, I can't be the one to kill Vangorich. You, Execrator, or whatever. Chapter master, you have to lead this because your sense is not dulled like mine.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, totally, I can do.
It's like, and then just Thane like, oh god, that was a guy.
Thane is cool in so many ways, but like I think it's just his judgment in general sucks. This is a great plan. Trust me. Oh, sorry.
Which is why Space Marines were never like meant to be in charge.
So then they load up the Thunderhawks and they fly to the Eversur Temple.
Yeah.
They as they're coming in, they see just like dead bodies everywhere with no visible marks. And it was like, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, Vangorich did that. He's been experimenting on people too.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh god, I should have come back like 30 years earlier. Because they say he's like mainly normal for the first like 70 years. It's only the last 20 to 30 that he goes crazy. And they go in and he's all, who's that millionaire in Vegas who like didn't cut his, Howard Hughes was it, that didn't cut his fingernails?
Oh yeah.
And bottled his own pee and stuff like that. So Vangorich is going like full Hughes.
Yeah.
Like he's crazy lank skinny.
Oh yeah.
So he wasn't young when we first got into the book.
No,
he wasn't old. Like I think like at one point like Winan like looks at him and she's like, it's hard to tell because his body moves as though he's young, but he looks as though he might be older.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell with all the weird drugs that everybody does.
Seriously.
But so go ahead.
But so they go in.
Years later.
Yeah, 100 years later, and he's like, well, you fools, you've walked into my trap. Ha ha ha, like mustache twirl.
Yeah.
He hits a button, and 100 pods rise out of the ground, and 100 Eversur assassins come out. And this is when the good stuff, because they talk about how there was like 100 or so Space Marines there, and then in one paragraph, it's like 100, 70, 30, 20. Then there was 10. They're like, oh shit, because they're getting massacred.
Yeah.
Their sensors can't pick them up because of the fog and stuff in there.
It's like it's a brutal, crazy, killy fight. That's super
imagine
cool.
It's like aliens or actually maybe like Harlequins. It must be like fighting Harlequins.
Yeah.
Like you think you have them in your sights, you pull the trigger. By the time your finger has pulled the trigger, they're gone.
Yeah.
And
they're behind you stabbing you.
Yeah.
And Thane gets kind of scratched open, and poison goes, and like his marine biology kind of gets rid of the poison, but he's like grounded for a little bit. And Eversur kind of reaches over him. Oh, you know what we didn't touch on? Before this point, Beast Cruel tries to kill Vangorich.
Oh, yes.
We totally skipped over that.
That's right, we did.
Shit, so Smash Cut 100 years in the past.
100 years earlier.
Jason Statham is sitting down, and Vangorich is like, yeah.
Plops the head down on the desk.
Yeah. Plops the head down on the desk, and he's like, I'm going to kill you, by the way.
Yeah.
And Vangorich is like,
it wasn't even like he wasn't even trying to hide. He was like, I killed him. I'm probably going to kill you too.
Yeah.
I lost so much respect for Cruel in this. Like, it's just like, you're an idiot, dude.
Seriously.
And so, Cruel does, Vangorich does his best, like, bad guy just hits, like, one button, and apparently Cruel has a shut-off switch where he can't
it's a series
move.
of words, code words.
Yeah.
Like, blah, 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 blah.
Winter Soldier style.
I was going to say, he Winter Soldiers him.
So he's like, oh, by the way, I have a special place to go for you where your talents will be used and you wouldn't have to think. And I was like, oh, he's going to be an Eversur. So, Smash Cut, 100 years in the future again. There's a special officer with a different blue helmet, and like he's like, kill it. Like Vangorich is like, kill Thane now, please. And the officer's like, no, and he pulls off his helmet, and it's recognizably Cruel, but not.
Yeah, his like face is all ripped up. It's like a metal skull and like all these like wires and everything. Like they fucked his face up, but somehow he could tell.
Yeah.
It's like Darth Vader versus Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, because Thane's like, hey, you're Beast Cruel, and he's like, he's like, my name is Acid Wire.
Yeah.
And he stands out of the way, and then Thane shoots him with a single bolt shot from an Ultimo pattern bolter.
There you go.
Umbra Venom, yeah.
Umbra pattern bolter.
It worked.
It works. It's that smoke and
Vangorich is
barrel.
dead.
Yeah.
And Vangorich is dead. There is a small epilogue from the story with Eldrad Ulthwain, and kind of trying to follow all of the shit that's going down and kind of seeing how that affects the future. I thought the way Ulthwain was presented at the end was very similar to how Vangorich was presented. About, oh no, I'm doing this. This is the best for everyone. You don't know you're only one person. Like, no, it's good. It's good.
Trust me.
So I think that's why I was put in the end there. But that's
because that ends up coming back in the Gathering Storm thing where he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Yeah,
and it's like,
I think part of it's also to lead its way into the War of Armageddon too. Because I think he predicts all right, well, the beast is going to rise again, and this time it's going to be Ghazghkull.
Same planet, different place.
Yep.
We've been joining on forever.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break now. We're out to the books. We're going to come back and kind of real quickly just thoughts on series wrap-ups.
Sounds good.
The new Mark IIIA uses a ceramic-overplus steel with a buttressed carbon composite frame.
What? Oh, yeah. Which one of those is it?
All of them.
Oh, neat. Hey, is this a cup holder?
Yes, the driver's compartment has a cup holder as an optional accessory.
No way. Shut up. Cup holders?
Well, not everybody has a life support system, so for the exploratory group of mortals we felt,
Cup holders? I'll take it.
Mark IIIA also has a traditional quad thermoreactor.
Hey, do you think I could try it out?
Well, of course, the ignition is on the dash rack.
I brought my favorite travel mug. I got it in this amazing bakery in the Segmentum just outside of Armageddon a few years back. Oh my gosh. Perfect fit.
So anyway, as you can see, the new Mark IIIA has a power coupler interface in the top hatch to allow for modular weapon components that can be...
Does this have a heater in it? I hate it when recap gets cold. If the coffee holder had a heater, that would just make my day.
We hadn't considered that, as most chapters use Astartes drivers, and most of you Astartes don't drink recap. But I suppose we could build you something.
Great, you tech priests are the best.
Do you want to see the comms unit specs?
Nah, I'm good.
Is there anything I can...
No, we'll take 11 of them. Thank you. The Emperor protects.
Space Marines hate change. How'd you ever convince him to upgrade to the new Mark IIIA?
Cup holders, believe it or not.
Oh, cup holders.
Brand new Mars pattern Mark IIIA Rhino. New with cup holders.
Hey, we're back. What a fun 30 seconds
Oh,
that was.
It was only 30 seconds?
Surely it wasn't 20 minutes of processing.
I think my ass sweat has fused my butt to your chair, so I'll be taking this with me.
No, that's fine. It's pleather. It'll wipe clean.
You think?
So we're
There's little tendrils coming out there.
Tendrils. The tendrils of the Kraken. So we are now done with Beast Arises. It's now 5 months since it's finished. It's not really been mentioned since, so I don't know if there's follow-up coming.
Yeah. The Warhammer community had talked a little bit about it, or pushed it, although they've been linking to anything related to anything that they could sell. So which is cool,
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, going into it, I was like, oh, sweet, an orc book, yeah. No, this was a Death Watch book. A little bit of Imperial Fist, but it was mainly kind of a Death Watch, Sisters of Silence.
I think in a way, this whole thing, I mean, because I think that, I think this whole thing was kind of like the origin story for the contemporary Imperium.
Yes.
I mean, we had the origin of the Death Watch. We had the not quite origin, but still kind of teasing for the Grey Knights. And we had the
Origin of the Inquisition, really? Because
Yeah.
of the modern day
as we know it.
Inquisition.
Yeah, the non-order orders.
Yes.
And that was something I had to look into because I was because I think some of these things, it was that kind of forced origin feel. All right, all the things you remember about Spider-Man with to fit into this first movie, so that you know that it's the Spider-Man that you know.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the one thing I was like, wait a second, all right, I got to look into the Inquisition because they talked about all right, we're gonna split into the two Ordos. We're gonna have the Ordo Malleus and the Ordo Xenos. And I'm like, well, I remember there being more orders in that, and you think he'd say that we're going to be pliable so that you can have more orders.
But let's just start with 2.
Yeah, which I thought was cool because that felt a little bit less forced than all right, we have to put all the buzzwords from Spider-Man's 30 years or whatever. So then they started looking into there's Hereticus. There's I think 12 other Ordos, the Minoris Ordos. So I thought that was great.
I think the format hindered more than helped. of the storytelling. So you got 12 books released once a month.
Okay.
And they're all around 250 pages.
Mm-hmm.
A couple are shorter. Obviously, they kind of choose where they're ending based on storytelling, things like that. But a lot of it seemed kind of squished. And kind of like there was some things I wanted to breathe more, kind of like some ideas I wanted to expand more. And it just, I mean, I enjoyed the serialized aspect where all of them ended on a cliffhanger. The last one kind of excluded.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there was a little constraint to how each individual story was constructed.
I agree with that to a point, because I think that the serialization, the way they had it, really allowed them to show the progression that it took. That as much as it seemed, as much as they were like, oh, and then the Death Watch started, oh, and then the Inquisition started, and and then this happened.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of those things couldn't have been told the way they were told unless you had books before to lay the groundwork.
Oh, no, for
to
sure.
properly do it, because otherwise you'd have the situation where it's like Koorland's the last Imperial Fist. Why? They all died. You know what I mean? Without having that, like that.
I mean,
that
I feel like you
story
still have
sense
like
to
a
go through.
serialization, but if it was presented more kind of like a Horus Heresy, where it isn't that, okay, we need one a month. Okay, they have to be no more than 250 pages. Kind of like that kind of thing, like that. Like I was saying, that's where I think the constraints come from.
Okay.
Like the serialization is fine, but like I said, I think that the some beats weren't allowed to breathe.
So I think that like the first half of the series, or at least the first third of the series, like we had, there seemed to be like there's a template, and it was like you have a story, there's a beginning, middle, end. There's a thing like the people that start off in the series like are the story, like the Emperor Expects. We had the captain, and like we saw him, and like there's all these parallel stories that were the larger story, but like we had this like smaller picture view, and so we had his beginning, middle, and his end. Like that was it, and it was kind of like that could be his book, and then we had all this other stuff. And I think like we had that in several occasions. Like we had the lady who used to be a hiver that ended up like
dying pregnant on the Hive World in book 2, right?
So, but I think that they kind of stopped that after a while, after the first like third or so, and maybe they got their human interest out of the way, and maybe that was all it was, or whatever. But personally, I kind of felt like I first was like, God, this is kind of gimmicky and kind of weird. But I kind of wish they had like kept that through and through. And granted, towards the end, like you're already at the climax, so why do you care? You don't need to have this like this development of the world. But I feel that the gimmick kind of worked.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I really liked those. Those stories were fantastic. I thought they were like the one with like you said with the Hiver girl who became like the PDF. Like I legitimately like felt emotions at that scene at the end there with her.
You're married.
Like we are married with her. Okay. But yeah, it was like I like legitimately felt emotions for that, because I thought it was such it was a cool like emotional story that they told with that. I think the reason they had those in the beginning was because we had no investment in the larger story. Mm-hmm. So they needed to have something to keep you reading. You know what I mean? And telling those stories kept you going through the book. And then as they started to develop the main stories, and suddenly we had like the main storylines were coming to a head, they now had a situation where like you were hooked into those, but also they needed to give more space to them to develop than just like the 250 word like pages.
And that's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah. And I think maybe it was like you said that it was like a limitation that hurt it. I'm wondering if that was the plan, where it was like we're going to keep them reading these stories that we're developing with these like small vignettes to like set the stage, but then once we've established these major storylines, we're going to spend our efforts and our time and our space telling those stories that we've decided that these are going to be.
But the thing is, for like the first 10 or 11 books, you're building up this character, this creature, and you spend 2,500 pages building this up, and your payoff to that is fairly simple. You know what I mean? And it's
no. I definitely hear what you're saying. I think, and this may just me being like, fixing it based on my own wants and desires for it to truly work well.
Dark Angel showed up and shot him once.
Exactly. Part of me feels like the story behind the beast and everything with that. The fact is that when they had Olenor now became Armageddon, it just goes to show you that like an orc is bigger than one big orc. You know what I mean? The orcs, the threat that the orcs pose, the threat that the orcs that make real is their existence at all. And until you can just purge every single orc, you're always going to have the chance that the beast will arise again.
And that was the last chapter with Ulthway or whatever.
Yeah.
His name was,
when it's like they name check Gazgul Thraka in the 30 sec.
And I think like because we never really heard the beast's name. Like the beast was always faceless. Like even though he showed up and like they fought. Like I mean, really they didn't build the character of the beast. Like they built it up as like I think like as we discussed before. Like it was more of an environmental effect. It was a tidal wave. It was a volcano. It was Armageddon.
Yeah. And part of me wonders if there was one main beast or if those 6 larger, like the 6 thrones were the beast. Like all 6 of them may have been the beast. You know what I mean?
Like,
and as much as like
Voltron or some shit like that?
Ultimately, the beast was, I mean, the High Lords. I mean, I think that was like this whole thing. Is like, it was all a series of stories that kind of like led to the High Lords.
Or Vangorich.
Vangorich, the beast rises.
Yeah.
So,
I think you're right.
And that's fair. Yeah. Vangorich is the beast that arose.
Mankind. Ultimately, it was mankind.
Mankind is the true beast. But yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I mean, to me, just a lot of it was rushed. I mean, like the Vangorich stuff. Like they were like, suddenly he's crazy and it's been 100 years.
Yeah.
Like to me, you could do an entire different story. Like I would have felt satisfied if you finished with Vangorich being installed as the head of kind of a puppet government and Thane out just crusading across the galaxy.
I kind of like the surprise of all of a sudden, like, I mean, but I can see your point. Like there's a shitload of stuff that happened in that 100 years.
There's a shitload of material that can happen in 100
They
years.
talked about like how like the Imperium was rebuilt, like it was beautiful again. Like I think in the first 80 years, like he had done a number, and so like the galaxy was like the humans' influence on the galaxy was expanding. Like there was numerous trade, everything was beautiful. And then he started to collapse. And it, like went imploded
under the pressure.
Yeah. But I think like sure there could have been lots of stories in there, and there probably will be.
I just felt book 12 was okay. We need to wrap everything up now.
Yeah, well,
I kind of felt that with like a 10 and 11. I felt
Yeah.
like 10 was a little bit rushed. It was a slog, and then like 11 was kind of like, I mean, it was like for me like 10 and 11 were bookkeeping, and
Kind of moving your pieces around, making sure everyone's in the right place for
Yeah.
the final.
it was just kind of like
for
obligatory.
the final beheading.
Yeah.
Which
of
is
the
too bad.
series.
I mean, I love Ron Sanders or
Yeah.
Rob Sanders. Like, oh no,
Yeah,
and
and
he was one
yeah,
of my favorite.
and I agree, but I think I don't think they could have ended it with him being put in place and then Thane going off there, because there's a huge cliffhanger to that, and I think the whole point of this series was
Be self-contained
be
and
self-contained,
wrapped up.
where it's
Yeah.
like this is it. This is all you need
Yeah.
to read. If you read book 1 and you finish through to book 12. You have an entire narrative
But
that's self-contained. You aren't left like
I
hanging like you.
I feel there's
they
money.
They didn't want but I don't think they wanted the Beast Arises to become a Horse Heresy series.
No, but
you
I
know?
feel there's money in leaving kind of in a narrative where you try and remove a corrupt government, and at the end, kind of there's a secular nature to that story where everything is kind of just the same at the end as it was at the start.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happened, the things there. But I mean, you're right that they have like a fully contained story, and I mean, overall, I enjoyed the story.
Yeah,
I
me too.
enjoyed the characters. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, I'm being pretty critical of like the last quarter of it, but like viewed independently, that's what it is as a part of the whole story. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
High points for me. Emperor Expects by Guy Thorpe.
That was great.
He has such a great skill with the naval stuff and the ship battles.
Yeah.
I also Throne World.
Yes,
one of my
Throne World
absolute
was
favorites.
fantastic.
Those two for me highlighted the series. And I think it's because, like you guys were saying, like the first half where you had those character moments and kind of things built up like that, it was allowed to do that rather than. And it sounds really weird to complain about. Rather than service the story, I could learn about these other things that were happening at the same time.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think a lot of the strength in the Black Library as a whole is their ability to tell these small stories throughout the universe. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to read every book that the Black Library puts out to get like some fantastic satisfaction from it. You know what I mean? You can just go through and you can read any of the different books that you want. You know what I mean? And you can read just the Eisenhorn trilogy, and you don't have to read anything else to get like a perfectly like entertaining read. And I think that's one of their things is that they tell these smaller stories isolated from the grander narrative of their world. And I think that's what their strength is. You know what I mean? And I think that the reason that we are attracted to a lot of those other smaller stories, like we were talking about in the earlier part of the series, is because that's one of the strengths of the Black Library, is telling these small vignettes of the grander, larger story that's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's how we live our life. We don't live our life in macro.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, macro is
Maybe you guys.
Yeah, you know?
Jonathan the God over here.
Yeah, like macro is can be boring. You know what I mean? Because it's a little too large to
we can't
to
really
comprehend.
relate.
We can't
to
relate
that,
to
right?
it. Yeah,
Right.
and when you get down into the smaller level, like we can relate to that. You know, as much as we don't live it, we can relate to that. You know, the person living on a planet that's being invaded by the Xenos. You know what I mean? Like you can understand that. You can relate to the story of like
Tyranid took my mail.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like they stole my package from Amazon. Oh crap!
So,
Goddamn termagants.
what would you say, book-wise? What would be your favorites from the 12?
Predator Prey. I think that's like really what
that was
turned
a
me
good
on
one.
to Rob Sanders, and then of course like Beast or The Emperor Expects. Yeah, I mean, I think those are my two faves. I'm gonna go back and quickly look.
Like I said, I feel like I think one of the reasons I really like Emperor Expects is because you don't have to have read the previous books or the books after to kind of get where you're going to go.
Was it Beast Must Die? Was that when Vulcan died? Because I seem to think like Hunt for Vulcan was the lead up, and then he died in the next book.
Yeah.
That one was a really good one too.
was
And
good.
that was
That was a
another
really
Gav
good
Thorpe one. So hope Gav you're
Echoes of the-
listening.
Wink.
We love your stuff.
Echoes of the Long War was also super good.
Yeah.
What about
That was a really good because I think that really focused on the Iron Warriors, right? And like that really humanized them.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So Phil, what about you though?
Honestly, I know I'm in the minority in this group, but I was a big fan of the whole Death Watch arc that they had. So like starting with the Watchers in the Dark. Like I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting. And I mean, obviously, I'm a Death Watch fanboy. I really enjoy it. I love the concept of the Death Watch, and seeing it come alive like that was really
night
cool.
I stayed over your house and saw you
You
had
saw me,
written it
like,
on your underwear.
Exactly.
His
I knew.
Death Watch
and my Death Watch body pillow.
Yeah. Nice have a hole in it.
But yeah, I enjoyed that narrative arc, and seeing like the kill teams doing what the kill teams do to me was fantastic, and I enjoyed that just on a personal level. With
I gotta say, like those were the most. I think for the action scenes, like those were the best action scenes. Like really, like even though like I didn't like the lead up to it, the origin story for them, like the action scenes were BA.
Yeah, they were super BA, and I mean, and to be fair, I enjoy a lot of what they write for the bolter porn. You know what I mean? I know we talk about it, but I enjoy that and I enjoy that. I've come to accept that as one of my failings. But failings. I love the bolter porn, and I think that they did some really great. I think that inherently we have this is based off of the lore of a game where you just move guys around and shoot each other and beat each other and try to kill each other. So I think innately there's always going to be that aspect of bolter porn being an important part of it, and I think they do it well. They've had 30 years to kind of hone that.
What I thought was kind of interesting was that during the seminar with Andy Smiley, one of the people like asked like some of your books kind of they really have like a really like realistic military aspect. How many of your writers are ex-military? And he's like none. Yeah, nobody has any experience with like military involvement. Like, so I'm like, wow, really? Because I mean, some of it sounded really convincing.
Yeah,
like
especially when you read some of the stuff like like Abnett stuff with the Gaunt's Ghosts and things like that. A little bit of a tangent, but I think he makes an effort to learn those things and goes and researches and finds from experts in those things so that it has that sense of authenticity without having to actually.
Beast Arises wasn't a good example, I think, of like kind of that military feel. Although like a Shadow Sword, that was like there was I can't remember the writer for that, but that guy Haley was it?
Yeah, I think
it was yes.
But that was amazing because I was really surprised because I think I read that book just as like I was almost done with it by the time I talked to Andy Smiley. Like, whoa, really?
Yeah,
some dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And that's
and granted, I have like zero military experience, so somebody could have been like, "This is nothing."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of the thing is that they can take that bit of authenticity that they can find and be good writers and put it into a future world where not everything translates exactly because it's the 41st millennium. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's I think that's one of their strong points is having that kind of authenticity, quasi authenticity to what it is that they do. You know what I mean? They don't make it sound silly and superfluous.
It's not all Ender's Game.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So Ted, what would be your most memorable scene from the series?
Oh God.
Start thinking, Phil.
I think it was who was that? I think there was a dreadnought that came down. I think it was like when the Iron Hands.
It was the Black Templar dreadnought.
The Black Templar dreadnought that came down and just went batshit crazy.
Yeah.
I think that has to be it. Like
I think my favorite thing about the dreadnought was all of his speeches in block caps, like death from Discworld style.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just now imagine dreadnoughts permanently yelling, and being like kind of in like mess halls and training rooms and ships, and being like, "Hi guys,
okay, Grandpa, okay, hearing aids, please.
I'll have the hot dogs." It's like okay. Yeah, I thought that was cool too, and that's when they discovered when he crushed. Remember, because they crushed the guy's head and killed them all.
Yeah,
that was that's where they discovered it. Yeah, they're like, wait a minute, that could be useful. Yeah, I think that was cool. That was definitely a really cool scene.
Well, what about you, Phil?
To be honest, I think that final scene was to me the most.
No, the not quite final scene.
Oh, yes, not quite final scene.
Oh,
yeah.
so you mean when Eldred Ulthuan?
Yes, that
hanging out.
I
Guess the
love
next
when
day
he's just looking at the earth.
Guess the next 1,000 years of WoW.
Yeah,
I love geodes.
yeah, exactly. No, I mean the last scene with Vangorich, like it was so evocative. It's just like thinking about like, and maybe it's just my overactive imagination that made it come to life. But it was just like the thought of like all of these like enhanced Eversor assassins like fighting against like the Marines, and just the carnage going on in this room, just like bolters flying everywhere, and the Eversor is just like slaughtering the Marines left and right. Like that to me was it was so visceral and so cool.
Like I said, my only issue is that you spend 12 books building up this character, getting to know this character, giving character traits.
Vangorich?
Yeah. So you build up all this information, and you know him as a person and as a character. Because he was very, very well developed for the last book in the last 10 pages to turn him into a mustache twirling. Like, you'll never defeat me. See, you kill him.
Yeah, I get that. But to me, I felt like he became that over the entire course of this series. Like he started out as just like the grumpy guy in the corner throwing shade on the cool kid table. And as it like developed forward and forward and forward, as he got more and more power, it finally just like took him over. And at the end, the way he finally ends up dying is because he had screwed over his one true confidant. You know what I mean? And then that one confidant was like, "You screwed me, and now you're screwed too."
I think in a way, I almost see I had sympathy for him.
Yeah,
like because I think like he was competent for the longest time, and I think like he had an altruistic, in my opinion, he had an altruistic vision, and I think like he was doing like the hard job of like turning humanity around to where it's not just self imploding, and so like, and I think like in the end, like he had these lofty visions. We heard him talk Thane talking to Winan about like how the Empire had turned into this great golden moment, like there was 80 years of bliss, and then like in the last 20 it was turning to shit. And then like, so I think like to see him to where and like he turned into a madman. He was destroying all the things that he was destroying himself, you know, as well as destroying the Empire. And the Empire, like he was more invested in the Empire than anybody else on the High 12. And so I felt a lot of sympathy for him. But I think like also, John, going kind of, I think like at one point you argued that they could have done so much more. And I think like personally, I guess like even though I was okay with the surprise, I think it would have been also more heartfelt to have more of the slip into madness.
Right. Because, I have sympathy for him. But how much more sympathy would you have if you treated it like the Fifth Exemplar? Like, if you had their gradual fall and their gradual fall from grace.
Yeah.
And kind of to this point, where instead of suddenly Harlequins.
Yeah. But, see, I didn't see it.
Madness.
Yeah. But I guess the thing is, I didn't see it quite as suddenly Harlequins as I think you guys did. Because to me...
Because you're smarter than
no,
us.
that's not... No, because, like, to me... Like, I think his story very much paralleled, like, the Fifth Exemplar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think because all he was... Like, the Fifth Exemplar, when they were making those decisions to like go along with Calcator, it wasn't because they were like, they weren't making these decisions because they thought they were the bad choices. They had these thoughts. They were like, we need to get back to help the Imperium to keep fighting against the beast, and I've got to do everything I can to make sure I can do that. And I think Vangorich was the same way, where he's like, it's up to me to save humanity and bring back the Imperium to what it was. And he kept making decisions that were wrong. Like when like each of the steps that he took, like whether he had like the intentions that were golden.
We're going round and round on this one, because I think in the end, I can see that like it's a bunch of tough decisions. On the other hand, I definitely see where those he made the right decision. You're saying you were doing the wrong ones. I didn't think, but it's just like all your perspective of like which side of like the loyalty boundary are you on.
But the difference between the two examples is I don't know what happens. The future has been left open for the Fist exemplars. There's still stories to tell there. Whereas with the Vangorich, it was just closed up.
I guess we'll see. If people demand it enough, maybe we will see like that hunt.
I will say kind of my favorite moment is the fall of the Fist exemplars.
Although they did say that, I think at the very end, what was their last line? Iron within, iron without. So maybe they just became Iron Warriors.
Maybe. But I like their gradual fall. And I like generally chaos stuff where it isn't just, yes, accept me, Lord God.
Absolutely.
And I think I really liked that it wasn't just kind of stereotypical chaos.
Yeah.
But
I'm definitely interested in the Iron Warriors a lot more. I would love to see their perspective a bit more.
But that was The Beast Arises. I know it's been 10 episodes since we did our last update. But
thanks for sticking around.
It's over. It's done.
Yeah, and now you can leave. You're good. You've been released.
And our numbers just plummeted.
That's what it was. All of our numbers were just people waiting for us to finish talking about this series.
Hurry up and review it so I don't have to read it.
Yeah, exactly. The episode after this is just going to be 5 people.
Well, that would be an increase in numbers, truly.
It'll all be bots from China.
I pay good money for this. But so we're done with that. We're starting to do some more books in the future. We got some ideas of ones we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Maybe in April Fools we'll talk about Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay.
We're gonna take a last fake break. We're gonna come back, wrap it up, and then let you guys get out of here because holy shit, holy hell.
Fear consumed my every waking moment. It wasn't rational, but there it was, ruining my life. Then one day I came across a book called How to Be a Cheating Asshole. From the very first chapter, it helped me to confront my fear head on. In a world filled with easy answers and cheap solutions, How to Be a Cheating Asshole showed me that the way out of my despair was to use loaded dice and not declare what I'm rolling. Its message was so strong and so real that it put me on the road to a happier, more fulfilling life. And it made my fear a part of my past.
Stop by your local retailer now for a copy of How to Be a Cheating Asshole. Also available in audiobook, read by somebody who only sounds like Donald Trump.
And we're back. Yeah, not pressing buttons anymore. It's been a long one. I think right from the future we'll kind of restrict maybe one book
I'm
an
half
episode.
tempted to goat Phil about the decision.
I can totally talk about Vangorich still.
We got another hour.
I've got another hour in me, baby.
I don't. So thank you so much for tuning in. This has been wonderful. I'm really happy.
Hey, thank you for 50 episodes.
Yeah.
50 episodes.
Yeah,
good times,
that's
man.
pretty good. Good times. Shake hands.
Well
Yeah, well done.
And
Well
thanks
done.
for, I don't know, 20 or whatever.
I've been here for way more than 20.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of just before it was real quick thank you to everyone who's listened to us or told people to listen to us.
Yeah.
Downloaded it on every device they own to increase our numbers falsely. I want to thank the factory workers in China who go into internet cafes and download this episode 20 or 30 times.
For $5 a family.
I can't afford that. Wait, you mean a month or a day?
I don't know.
But
your credit card.
we're certainly not planning on stopping. We have a lot of kind of neat stuff we're going to be doing in the future. I said there's a few books that we want to talk about now. We've kind of been, beholden to The Beast Arises a little bit.
Yeah.
And so now, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it. Would not change anything for the world. But yeah, we got some cool stuff in the works now that we're going to get doing.
Yeah. That'd be fun. And hell, there's 8th. So somebody has to critique it.
Yeah.
Or be excited about it.
May as well be us.
Yeah. Because, maybe we should just review 7th when 8th comes out.
Oh, wow.
Being now that it's had time to really mature.
I really want to old hammer at one point and just all of us bust out a copy of Rogue Trader and just play a Rogue Trader and then pit it next to it.
I barely had time to read 3 books in a week. I can't relearn a rule set from 30 years ago.
You're in a better position too than Phil and I.
if I start now, I might get done with Rogue Trader in time for 9th edition.
Woo.
What's
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back in 51 with something. It'll be fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right, thanks. So, from Mob Rules, I've been John.
I'm Ted.
I'm Phil.
We'll see you next time.
Bye. This episode of Mob Rules has been brought to you by Mob Rules Media. Please join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation at facebook.com/MobRulesAK. You can also email us at themob@tophat-arts.com. Thanks for checking us out, and we will see you in 2 weeks.